Of the morning brief here on SAFM. Come, let us huddle together for the next 3 hours so that we can inform and engage each other and hopefully sharpen each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Here's some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours. There's major administrative fallout from the delay to the start date of the public hearings in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. In a dramatic turn of events, the Justice Minister, Justice and Constitutional Development Minister, Mamuluku Gubai, has now suspended the department's Director General, Doc Leshabane, and the department's Deputy Director General for ICT, that is Jabu Hlajwayo, for what she calls, and I quote here, failures and lapses in the system that led to the Madlanga Commission having to postpone its hearings date from the originally announced 1st of September. Gubai did not hold back, however, in expressing her disappointment with the Commission itself, especially around the Commission issuing its statement earlier on in the day yesterday, in which it made it abundantly clear that but for the department's failures to procure the resources that the Commission needs to do its work, it would have started on the announced date. So, at about 7:20, we'll bring that issue under the spotlight and we'll unpack it all for you with specialist legal journalist Karen Mon, who will join me for that conversation at about 7:20. Could we be in for a major overhaul of the country's centerpiece sexual offences legislation? Could a looming constitutional court case uproot the foundations of rape prosecutions that have stood and have been in existence for many, many years? The Constitutional Court is set to hear a case on the 25th of September that challenges the current wording of the law, right? At issue is really the core and focus of any rape prosecution, the words without consent, because that's part of the legal definition. The sexual act that it would have taken place needs to have taken place without the person's consent, without consent. Activists want those words removed from the definition, the legal definition of rape. They argue that the focus should not be on whether a survivor can prove that they did not consent, but rather it should be on the conduct of the alleged perpetrator. So we'll unpack that case. It's a case that will be coming under the tag of Embrace Project NPC and others versus Minister of Justice and Correctional Services and others. And we'll talk about it and put it under the spotlight and ask whether it could transform how rape is prosecuted in this country, shifting the burden away from victims onto those who are accused. My guest at about 7:45 this morning will be Basetsana Khoyitse, who is the Deputy Director at Lawyers Against Abuse. So that's coming up in the second hour of the show. Then to this, the controversy surrounding Tourism Minister Patricia de Lille's dissolution of the South African Tourism Board just won't dissipate. In the wake of a wave of criticism, de Lille has doubled down on that decision and stuck to her guns, insisting that she dismissed the board based on legal advice and that the move was necessary to uphold governance standards after the board contravened its charter by holding an unlawful special meeting without a chairperson. Remember, the board, the now dismissed board, dispute even that. They're saying that the minister, that the meeting that the minister is using as a basis for her decision simply did not happen. But the minister insists that it did happen and it was basically in contravention of the board's charter and against the governance standards at the board, SA Tourism. But now a major industry body is weighing in on that controversy. The Southern African Tourism Services Association is warning that the move, the minister's move, undermines governance, stability, and the country's international reputation at a critical time for recovery and growth in the tourism sector. It actually accuses the minister of what it says is a troubling pattern of overreach and interference, saying that she deliberately weakened the board that she has now dismissed by refusing to appoint a deputy chair as required under the Tourism Act. They go as far as to tabulate a history of board-level instability at SA Tourism, dating back to when Minister Patricia de Lille was first appointed as Tourism Minister in 2023. We'll have a conversation with David Frost, who is the CEO of the SATSA, at about 8:45 this morning, and unpack what their concerns are around the decision of the minister. To the morning brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff, and Musa at the news desk. Rob Byrne on your traffic, Zaikan watching all things sport, Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief, and as always Ndawling Lechela with insights into the economy, business and markets across the 3 hours. And of course we also have Sipho Mantula with the Africa Update, an overview of developments around the continent and its diaspora, and that's coming up at about 20 to 7. So we've warmed it up, we've started it up, we've revved it a few times. What are we waiting for? Let's put pedal to the metal and get going.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Let's rewind 6 years, when Twitter was still Twitter, not a letter of the alphabet. TikTok was simply the sound your clock made. And Zoom just meant enlarging a picture. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Amakhosi have a different strategy. They want to collect maximum points in the early days of the season. While reigning champions, Masandawana, want to sing their happy song, Double Yellow. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's Clash of Giants, Kaizer Chiefs versus Mamelodi Sundowns, this Wednesday, 27 August at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Then on SABC radio stations at 7:30. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
Yeah, here to get us going is Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa. So we are here now. This is that story about a lease that may or may not be fictitious. Certainly in the reporting of News 24, it is fictitious in that the person who leased the building to the Government Pensions Administration Agency, the entity just doesn't own that particular building. Some developments on that story.
Morning, Thulasizwe. Quite an interesting one indeed. It's business as usual at the Government Pensions Administration Agency after Finance Minister Enoch Godongwane had placed the CEO, Gidiboni Madie, on precautionary suspension amid allegations of procurement irregularities, including a 1 billion rand fictitious lease. The suspension with full pay is to ensure an unbiased investigation, not a judgment of guilt. Treasury's Job Mgomezulu has been appointed acting CEO in the interim, and Godongwane has assured that pension services will continue without disruption and that investigations will uphold high governance standards. So this will be an interesting one to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. We need absolute clarity on that story because it was met with a lot of denials by the GPAA. But, ultimately, News 24 is sticking to their story based on the reporting that they've done, that was quite irregular. And in fact, it was a fictitious transaction in terms of that lease. We were hearing yesterday as well, Melissa, from the IEC Chief Electoral Officer Sai Mamabolo ahead of the, really the kickstart to the electoral cycle leading to next year's local government elections. And we have a record number of political parties in the country.
Yes, it's growing quite, rapidly, I must say. IEC CEO Sai Mamabolo has confirmed that 34 new political parties have been registered since May 2024. 13 of these were registered in the last month alone, bringing South Africa's total parties to 472 ahead of the 2026 local government elections. These elections are set to take place between the 2nd of November 2026 and the 31st of January 2027. Since April 2025, 39 ward by-elections have taken place, with more planned for the 3rd of September. Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa has increased the donation disclosure threshold for political parties to 200,000 Rand and the annual cap to 30 million Rand. A legal challenge by My Vote Counts to require full donation transparency was dismissed by the Western Cape High Court. The Commission is also still holding public consultations across the country to gauge whether voters would accept casting their ballots electronically. So this will be interesting as well to see if they actually go through with it.
Absolutely. So lastly, Melissa, tell me about the man that perhaps may have had 9 lives if the allegations against him are true in as far as criminality is concerned. Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, the NPA is hoping that while he may have had 9 criminal lives allegedly, he's down to his last criminal life, and in that they will hold him accountable. What are they doing to try and consolidate the cases?
So the NPA is planning to consolidate multiple cases against the alleged underworld figure Vusumuzi Ket Matlala, accused of ordering a 2023 hit on his ex-girlfriend, influencer Tebogo Tobejane. Matlala, his wife, and 3 other accused face charges including attempted murder and money laundering. The state seeks to centralize 7 dockets across various courts into one case in the Johannesburg High Court. This aims to streamline proceedings and strengthen the prosecution. Only Matlala's wife and a co-accused daughter are currently out on bail. Matlala's bail hearing is set for next week, Tuesday, with others only returning back to court in October. So this is a case that we will, be watching quite closely as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with this morning's edition of The Morning Brief in Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
20 minutes after 6. Let me tell you how it's looking on the weather front. No warnings in terms of impact-based warnings that have come through from the South African Weather Service. So the rest of your weather will be looking like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 26. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 11 to 29. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, 11 to 29. Mbombela will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy, 12 to 26. Polokwane will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise it will be fine with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 25. Mahikeng, partly cloudy and windy, 11 to 28. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy, 6 to 28. Kimberley, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 8 to 30. Uppington will be partly cloudy and windy with scattered showers and thunder showers, 14 to 31. Cape Town, fine, 11 to 19. George, partly cloudy, 8 to 18. Gqeberha, partly cloudy, 9 to 21. East London, partly cloudy, 11 to 22. Durban will be partly cloudy, 16 to 24. Richards Bay, partly cloudy, 19 to 32. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 32.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6. U.S. President Donald Trump says he's ready to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un possibly later this year. He told reporters in the Oval Office that he wants to revive stalled nuclear talks. The comments came during a meeting with South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung. Trump even raised the idea of taking ownership of land that hosts a U.S. military base in South Korea. Trump met Kim 3 times in his first term and praised their personal rapport, saying he knows the North Korean leader, and I quote here, better than anybody, almost, other than his sister, end quote. Lee called Trump the only man that can end the decades-long standoff on the Korean Peninsula, where war stopped in a truce but never really a peace deal. Let's speak to Professor David Munyai, who is political science and international relations professor at the University of Johannesburg, also the director of the Center for Africa-China Studies. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So let's start with that meeting in the Oval Office. It was an interesting one in that there were elements of flattery. Certainly, I felt that was my impression coming through from the South Korean leader. It was only a matter of time before Donald Trump turned his energies and focus to the Korean Peninsula, wasn't it?
So indeed, I think when you look at previous Oval Office meetings, whether the South African or the Ukrainian, Europeans, I think this is one of the best in terms of the temperature in the room and the ability to stick to real issues without any drama. Even though the North Korea issue became the center, but the real core issues had to do with $350 billion that South Korea wants to invest, with $150 billion for buying Boeing oil and gas, and I think the money part softened President Donald Trump to a good degree.
But now, even in the midst of that temperature, which was, pretty much under control and calmer than other meetings that we have seen, the U.S. president raising the specter of possibly taking ownership of this land on which the U.S. military base in South Korea is, with some 28,500 American troops stationed there. This is classic Donald Trump, isn't it? In that he will not miss an opportunity to get a bargain, to get a deal of some sort that advantages him.
Well, indeed, and that was one of the most controversial matter, because the majority of South Koreans really want that military base to be out. Ulsan built Air Force base in south of Korea. So that is one of the major sticking issue. Previously, President Donald Trump wanted the American troops to leave South Korea. With 28,500, I think that has softened it a bit. Want to negotiate in terms of the rental that the U.S. is paying. But it carries a heavy penalty for President Lee, for him to openly accept, given that it has a huge controversy at home. And given the fact that, for President Lee, also wants to soften the China dimension. That military base not only has issues domestically, but has implication on China in relation to U.S. Politics towards Taiwan.
And lastly, how do you read the desire on Donald Trump's part to have another meeting with the North Korean leader? He had 3 in his first term. This would be the 4th interaction between them. Extraordinary in that no other American president has met with a North Korean leader that many times.
Well, he's becoming the very first president since 1945 to really change the entire narrative of the Western world, NATO in particular, on major issues. I mean, a disruptor to a greater degree, whether one looks at the Ukrainian issue, whether you look at U.S. military bases overseas, and on this particular issue, I think the chances are very slim that he'll succeed, but nonetheless, his ability trying to reach out to perceived enemies such as North Korea, it's quite fascinating.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights once again. That's Professor David Munyai of the Political Science and International Relations Department at the University of Johannesburg, but also the Director of the Center for Africa-China Studies.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So Orlando Pirates proving too good for Orbit College.
Oh, yes, too good they were. That's Pirates securing their second win of the Betway Premiership. The score 1-0 at Orlando Stadium. The Buccaneers, are fresh from securing a fourth MTN8 final appearance this past weekend. They did have a frustrating game overall, but were able to claim the 3 points thanks to a superb strike from Lebona Siema. And that's lifting them up on the log to 7th place. Meantime, Richards Bay claimed a 1-0 victory over Chippa United in their Betway Premiership match played at the Princess Magogo Stadium. The result saw the Natal Rich Boys record their first victory of the season, climbing to 13th on the spot. Now, there was plenty of Premiership action last night. TS Galaxy powering past Morocco Swallows 2-0, sealing 3 important points. Stellenbosch FC also claimed victory, edging Maruma Gallants 1-0 at the Dani Craven Stadium. And it was all square in Limpopo, where Polokwane City and Durban City battled to a goalless draw. The results shaking up the mid-table picture, with Galaxy and Stellenbosch boosting their early season momentum. Rugby Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus says the team must raise their standards if they are to tackle the All Blacks at Eden Park. While he gave his side a 7 out of 10 for their win over Australia, he admitted that performance falls well short of what it will take in Auckland. The Boks face a daunting task in Eden Park as it hasn't favoured them since 1994. Meanwhile, the Springbok squad heading to New Zealand looks stronger, with Sia Kolisi, Peter Steph Totoy and Willie Leroux fit and ready. And it's plenty of action at the US Open, where Alexander Zverev is in cruise control against Chile's Alejandro Tabilo, already 2 sets up and leading in the third, and it's all happening at the Arthur Ashe Stadium. Well, he's currently 2-2 in the third set. We'll go now to the other men's draw. The American Tommy Paul breezing past Denmark's Elmer Moller in straight sets, while Britain's Jack Fernley outlasted Roberta Bautista Agut in a marathon 5-setter. And France's veteran Game Monfils bowing out after a 5-set thriller against Russia's Roman Safiullin. And finally, the women's draw, the defending champion Coco Gauff surviving a big scare, edging Alia Tomljanovic in 3 sets, and former champion Naomi Osaka powering past Belgium's Greet Minin in straight sets. And that's a wrap. We'll serve it up again. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, a new date for the start of the Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference and corruption is not yet known. The commission, which will be chaired by retired Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga, was expected to begin on the 1st of next month. It has been postponed indefinitely. The trial of 6 men accused of killing 18 people in Lusikisiki and a politician last year continues in the local magistrates' court in the Eastern Cape. The 6 men are facing 29 charges, including 19 murder charges, attempted murder, kidnapping and possession of prohibited firearms and ammunition. And thousands of Israeli protesters have rallied in Tel Aviv and other cities in support of the families of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. A reminder it is heavy coming into Joburg again this morning, leaving Ekurhuleni's Brakpan and Springs area, the roadwork single lane section between Carnival Mall and Rondebolt Road. It's already fairly heavily backed as you squeeze into a single lane there. Durban, take caution, be careful getting through Alleywell and West, or you may know that as Dr. Pixley Kusumi and Samora Michelle. No traffic lights. It's a big busy junction in Durban. You might get people just deciding to fly straight through that one. So please, if you're in the Durban CBD, take it easy. Cape Town, pressure out of Mitchell's Plain, both the M7 and the R300 routes are quite heavy, backlogging up towards Samora Michelle into the overrun roadworks. N2 inbound, pretty full of traffic this morning from the airport, moving through to Mowbray Main Road, and a crash on the side of the N1 inbound at Gil Basson. There are some delays coming off Plattekloof Hill in from Belleville with the onlooking factor there. Baden-Powell, clear of any sand, which is surprising given the winds. Probably it's just blowing in the wrong direction. Baden-Powell clear of sand, but busy as you line up into Strandfontein Road on your way to Muizenberg. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
So for the first update, let's turn to Ndauling Lichela. Good morning to you, Ndauling. Let's talk tariffs. India, 50% they've been slapped with by the United States. So nothing really by way of a deal as far as that particular trade relationship goes.
That's right, Thulas. Really, that relationship between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump really deteriorating from friend to foe, with the US confirming it will slap an extra 25% tariff on Indian goods starting today, sparking concerns of disruptions for Indian exporters. Now, this move ramps up trade pressure on India, pushing total duties on Indian exports to the US to 50%, making it one of the highest rates imposed by Washington. Now, the tariffs are a penalty for India's increased purchases of Russian oil, with President Trump citing national security concerns. Indian exporters, particularly small and medium businesses relying on the U.S. market, are likely to feel the pinch. Sectors like textiles, apparel, gems, and jewelry, as well as seafood, are expected to be impacted, potentially threatening jobs. Now, in response to the move, India's Prime Minister Modi is not fretting, urging citizens to spend their money on goods made in China. Modi has further said that government will be overhauling its tax system in an attempt to provide some relief to businesses.
And then tell me about profits in China, industrial profits to be specific. You're saying that they are continuing on a downward trend.
That seems to be the case, Thulas, with Chinese businesses still seeming to be taking some sort of strain, as industrial profits fell for the third month in a row in July, with a 1.5% year-over-year drop, following a 4.3% slump in June. Now, this despite government efforts to boost economic recovery through infrastructure spending, consumer subsidies, and monetary easing. Businesses continue to struggle with subdued demand and persistent factory gate deflation. Now, the government's measures to bolster domestic consumption and curb price wars haven't yielded results as yet, amid ongoing deflationary pressures and a prolonged housing downturn. Now, this economic uncertainty has led to weak business and consumer confidence, dragging down demand and the broader economy. Zooming in on the print, SOEs reported a 7.5% fall in profits in the first 7 months of the year, while private sector and foreign firms saw a 1.8% increase in profits. Economists believe recent economic indicators, including the latest industrial profits print, suggest Beijing may need to implement additional stimulus measures to support the economy even further.
How did we close yesterday, and what tone has been set in Asia?
So kicking things off in the US, stocks making a comeback with markets back in the green. This as focus shifts from concerns about the Fed's independence to Nvidia's results, which will be released later today. With that, the Nasdaq led the gains overnight, closing 0.4% higher. The mood different back at home, with stocks in the red. The all-share shed over 0.5%. Those losses fueled by the financials are down 1.2%. The rand, in the meantime, steady this morning, still at that 17.60 mark to the dollar, as traders await more market-moving catalysts. Action also muted in the oil market, with Brent trading just above $66 per barrel. And then lastly, in Asia, trade is choppy this morning, with markets trading sideways. This as investors remain cautious and seem reluctant to make significant moves ahead of the release of some key U.S. economic data and NVIDIA's results.
Dowling, thank you. We'll touch base with you again in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, we turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start with news here at home, but with links to Zambia. A decision that slams the door, at least for now, on the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu, the door to the Constitutional Court.
Refreshing morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Thulas, the Constitutional Court yesterday came out very clear to say that the applicant, which is the Lungu family, has failed to justify why this case should do what we call the leapfrogging to the lower courts. And this was, remember, it was a leave to appeal directly to the Constitutional Court. And this came out from the High Court of Tshwane, Thulas, as you know, that the government of Zambia was able to then convince that court that this is the issue of state protocol, it's an issue of national dignity. He's a former president, he should be given the due recognition. When the family said it was his wish not to be buried by the state. And this way, Thulas, others are saying, if the family will want to take another route, Thulas, is to going back to Bloemfontein again, Supreme Court of Appeal. And it might take longer, Thulas, considering that since the passing of Lungu in June, and we're already moving towards September, it will take time, Thulas. And at the same time, the funeral parlor is still saying that all is well so far. Sure. The standard of embleming procedure have been followed, meaning there is no challenge, but they've also flagged it to both the family and to the government to look at this issue also, because they have to extend that storage of the body of the former president. So this is a long legal battle, but we hope sanity will prevail between the family and the state.
Yeah, what an extraordinary turn of events this has been. And also, I mean, if you're going back to the other courts, the lower courts, as you say, it might take even longer, because what urgency are you talking about? This person died all those months ago, and, you know, the preservation, as you say, has been confirmed by the funeral parlor that they've been able to preserve the mortal remains. Let's talk about what you call the Doha process. I see that the M23 and the government of the DRC are back at the negotiating table.
Thulas, they are back, but also they are under the watch of the U.S. and the International Committee of the Red Cross, who are supporting this process. Remember, they've missed one of the what I'll call the timelines of 18 August, where they were supposed to have concluded what they've agreed on the 8th of August. And now they are trying to create what they call, since yesterday they met, they are trying to create what they call the mechanisms for monitoring this peace process. The issue of exchange of prisoners and the detainees, and that's are the two key sticking issues to us, if we can look at, but also the challenge that both North Kivu and South Kivu are still under the M23 armed group, and there is no what you can call a clarity about what will happen to governance. And at the same time, you have a Doha process, you have a Washington process, and you have an AU and a SADC process that you have to bring into the picture here to say, how do you deal with the Doha process? When I looked at who's in this meeting, you find that the AU, the SADC, they are not being, the East African Community, they are not even being called upon as what I'll call the observers. Rather, it's the U.S. and the International Committee of the Red Cross.
And I see that France is undertaking an act of penitence in as far as Madagascar is concerned. Tell me about them returning these skulls to Madagascar.
So let's remember, in 2023, France applied a new law where they say they will facilitate the return of human remains from public collections without having a lot of legal processes. Now, the government of Madagascar and France, they've agreed that they should hand over the skull of King Toera from the Sakalava ethnic group in Madagascar. This has been kept at the National Museum of National History in Paris. Now it will be brought back during this week to us. The burial will be on the 31st of August. That's how the relation between Madagascar as well as France, it's interesting to look how they are saying that they want to deal with the dark chapters of the colonial history between of 1897 to 1960. Very important historical process. Remember, Madagascar to us is currently chairing the SADC. This might be a good project that they could look beyond Madagascar and look at the SADC member states around this return of cultural artifacts from former colonial power.
I wonder, though, Sipho, if it would be possible for all these acts, of trying to do right by African countries that had been colonized. I wonder if there could be a moment of awakening so that countries like the United Kingdom, France, Belgium, and others, just in one wave, instead of doing it in drips and drabs, we will return these artifacts, will return that, etc., etc. Anyway, let's go to your historical archive. Take me to 27 August 1986. What happened?
It was 39 years ago, what we call the Soweto Battle. Remember the Soweto Battle of boycotts against the then apartheid, what they'll call apartheid black community councils. The community was up in Rotulas because people were being evicted from their homes about the issue of the rent boycott. And this is what we are still seeing in different townships, the right to protest, and most of them tending to be violent, but also the issues of developmental challenges. Then you can see that a black township like Soweto in those years was rife. If you look at the 1986, that year of the state of emergency, Soweto was still burning and many people were injured on this day. Many people were killed on this day, but that shows you this element of imposition coming from the state in the black townships. And this has to be managed if one looks at the current situation that we see in different townships about how do you deal with the issues of tax and rates in the black townships taking over from apartheid government. And this is at the back of that local government elections is on the wings of the wind between 2026 and 2027. Asante sana Thulas, as we're still leading the conversation, SAFM observing the Women's Month.
Sipho, thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula with your Africa Update.
The boardroom heat is on and the pressure is rising. The Insurance Apprentice, hosted by the one and only Babi Moloi, is delivering drama, tough decisions, and big personalities every week. Expect bold moves, emotional twists, and contestants you'll either root for or roast. And yes, you'll be surprised what you learn about insurance along the way. Open up to the Insurance Apprentice, Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
From the brilliant buzz of Joburg to the beautiful beaches of the Eastern Cape, Fly Safair has you covered. That's right, from 1st November, we'll be flying from Lanseria Airport to both East London and PE, just in time for the holiday rush. Tickets are on sale now from only 770 Rand. So whether it's for work or play, plan your Eastern Cape escape from Lanseria or vice versa. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of fly. T's and C's apply.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Let us celebrate #IzinjaZeGame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
14 minutes to 7. Let's give credit to the reporting of MoneyWeb on this story. The energy regulator, NERSA, is accused of cutting a secret deal with Eskom again. The energy regulator is said to have quietly moved to settle Eskom's tariff dispute, a move that could cost consumers billions, according to the reporting of MoneyWeb. An agenda for NERSA's 28 August August meeting, sent to MoneyWeb by one of its readers, lists the matter under a closed session, hidden from the public. It refers to, and I quote here, proposed settlement agreement, end quote, tied to Eskom's court challenge over its revenue determination. Just as it did in May, NERSA is keeping the process behind closed doors, leaving South Africans to pay the price without a say. So let's speak to Chris Yelland, energy analyst as well as managing director of EE Business Intelligence. Good morning to you, Chris, and thank you for your time. Walk us through this. So there was this multi-year price determination, and it settled at 12.75% for this year and cascading over the next 3 years. So what then happened? Eskom was not happy and they went to court. What then happened?
Yeah, look, just a little bit of background. You may remember this so-called multi-year price determination application by Eskom was submitted last year sometime. And the price increase that Eskom were asking for the current financial year, that's the year that's starting on the 1st of April this year, was actually a 35% increase and lower increases for the next year and the next year. But still very, very high increases were applied for. NERSA granted Eskom ultimately a 12.5% increase approximately for this current financial year, starting 1st of April. And I think it was about a 7% and then a 6% increase for the 2 subsequent years. Now, Eskom were very aggrieved by this determination, giving them so much lower than what they'd asked for. And they initiated a court action to take NERSA's determination on review in the courts, as it has done in the past on several occasions, successfully, by the way. So it appears that NERSA has in the past, as a result, as proven by these judgments, made various mistakes in the application of its pricing methodology to determine the price increase. Eskom has reviewed this in the courts and been successful. Now, the latest action, Eskom has taken this latest MYPD 6, that's a 3-year price determination for the current financial year and the next 2, has taken it on review in the courts. And it appears that NERSA has again made some mistakes in its price determination, and some kind of settlement has been reached between the parties. And the problematic part of this is the fact that the settlement is being kept secret, and the public have had no say in this matter because the public consider that Eskom's price applications have been way too high.
So is the bottom line then, Chris, that perhaps NERSA is bruised and doesn't want another loss at the hands of Eskom in the courts, but isn't the bottom line that ultimately if the determination that was made earlier on in the year is reviewed, it will come down to us as ratepayers, taxpayers, paying far much more than what we had anticipated for electricity?
Yeah, I think if a settlement has been reached, and that's what it appears from the MoneyWeb article, a secret settlement, there are 2 implications of this. Firstly, why is it secret? That would seem to indicate that NERSA is trying to hide its mistakes. The second thing is the point that you have made. If a settlement is being reached or has been reached, it would appear to indicate that NERSA acknowledges that its case in law is weak and that it is unlikely to win in such a legal challenge, and it has not won in the past. Eskom have won several of its actions to review NERSA's prices. So it seems to me that NERSA is kind of acknowledging that it doesn't really have a good case in law and therefore it better settle this matter, which is okay. In secret, hiding the mistakes that it made or the implications. I mean, the implications of we're going to face a price increase as a result of the settlement.
Yeah.
We don't know what that price increase is yet. We don't know the basis of it. We don't know the mistakes that have been made. We don't know what the problem is, and that's a problem for me.
Yeah. All right, Chris, thank you for that. We've got to leave it there. I think your line is starting to fade on us a little bit, but I think we got enough out of that conversation. That's Chris Yelland, energy analyst as well as managing director of EE Business Intelligence.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, good morning. It's a heavy one out of Pretoria to Joburg. Now a crash on the M1 South at Samrand, and that's pushing traffic already back through Old Joburg and back towards Brakfontein interchange. The rest of the N1 between Montana and Brakfontein looks all right, but once you get into Brakfontein down to Samrand, it's all very heavy. N17 still on the brakes and low gears between Brakpan and Boksburg. That's as you line up into that single lane section. And the N1 North had a crash at Diepkloof earlier this morning. That's being cleared, but there's still an obstruction there. So coming up from the N12 Potch Highway, passing Eldos through Devlin and through Diepkloof for a turn down to Uncle Charlie's is all heavily jammed up. Durban this morning, just watch for no traffic lights right in the centre of the CBD. Samora Michelle and Dr. Pixley Kasumi, no traffic lights there. That's a very busy run through. Just be cautious and careful. Watch for traffic skipping those lights. Another morning of delays coming up the N2 into Westwood Mall, combo of the roadworks and a crash on the side of the road to look at before you get into Spaghetti Junction territory. Key Ridge, Cliffdale, touch on the slow side, but nothing too serious. We'll just keep an eye on that one for you. Cape Town, M3 is pretty heavy from Constantia all the way through to Paradise Road. No traffic lights on the N7 at Blue Gum. That's the first big light as you come off the N2 and turn up towards Langa. So just expect that to be busy. And very, very heavy backlogs around Khayelitsha this morning. Govan and Becky, Jefferson Masemola and Muway. That whole intersection is heavily backed up with motorists struggling to get up to or from the N2 highway. Really significant backlogs in that part of Khayelitsha. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, Sonono and Sanela Khoza join us and take us through the storied success of the Zodwa Khoza Foundation. We talk legacy, community building, and youth career pathways. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th, and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Valencini, Gabby Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now. You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
5 minutes to 7. Violent crime in Cape Town is back on the spotlight, back under the spotlight. On Tuesday, the Police Secretariat Director General Thulani Sibuyi met community crime-fighting groups in Khayelitsha. The engagement coming after a wave of shootings that left more than 30 people dead across the city in the past 2 months. Police link the violence to extortion, taxi wars, and gangs. Sibuyi's visit follows fresh bloodshed on Monday when 9 people, including taxi drivers and commuters, were gunned down in separate attacks in Philippi East and Khayelitsha. Let's speak to the Civilian Secretariat for Police Services Director General Thulani Sibuyi, who joins me now on the line. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. My understanding is that the engagement that you are going to have with crime-fighting groups in Khayelitsha has already taken place. Am I correct in that understanding? Correct me if I'm wrong. And how did it go?
Yes, good morning, Tulas, and good morning to the listeners. Yes, you are correct. The engagement we had with the crime-fighting stakeholders in the community took place yesterday.
And how did it go? What are the issues that came to the fore? Ordinarily, there's a lot of gang violence in areas of the Cape Flats, including your Khayelitsha and the likes. But this month, these last 2 months, even by those standards, have really been, disastrous in as far as bloodshed is concerned.
Yes, the engagement went very well with the community, and the community or the stakeholders were able to raise the issues that are of concern. And correctly said to us, your murder, your gang violence, the taxi violence, the extortions, and gender-based violence and femicide. Those are mostly the issues that the community is raising, and the community is concerned about our efforts as government that we put in the fight against crime, the relationship that the criminal justice system as a whole has with the community came under very severe spotlight. Our intention to visit the area was to ensure that we enhance our relationship with the community and understand exactly what are the root causes of violence in these areas, and design an intervention that we are going to implement in those areas of Philippi and Cape Flats as a whole, Khayelitsha included.
Yeah. What do those interventions look like as far as you've been able to conceive them and conceptualize them based on your engagement with those communities?
Yeah, our intervention to us, it's simple. One is that we need to, as government, implement the cabinet-approved strategy with the integrated crime, violence and prevention strategy. Because this strategy seeks to address many areas of intervention. One, we need to have the whole of government to be able to descend to these areas. If I can give you an example, we did a walkabout in Khayelitsha. It's very difficult to police the areas. The shacks are congested towards each other. Therefore, our environmental design in that area is a problem, which requires an intervention, which is an intervention that the police cannot really do on their own. It means that other departments need to start coming to the party. Your human settlement, your integrated human settlement strategy needs to be implemented so that we deal with the environmental issues in the area. The implementation of the cooperation agreement which we have signed with the municipality has to be strengthened and enhanced so that service delivery issues are also looked after. But we have also realized, one issue which I think is a problem in our view. We have got many children in those areas that are loitering the streets, which are not going to school. And for us, it's a problem that exists now, and it's a problem that is going to hit us in the future. So therefore, we need to be able to invest in our children to be able to go to school. So therefore, it's our view that we need an integrated approach in resolving the issues of crime.
All right.
We have made an undertaking in the yesterday's engagement that we're going to put together a holistic approach, invite all government departments that we believe are going to play a role, so that we come up with a plan that is going to enhance and efficient policing in the area.
All right.
A plan that will also target economic activities so that young people are engaged. A plan that will take people to school to ensure that gangs, it becomes difficult for gangs to recruit young children to be part of these gangs. But more importantly, crime intelligence has to be strengthened so that we are able to detect crime and deal with issues before they even pertain.
Right.
So our focus is more on prevention. Our focus is more on ensuring that the strategy gets implemented so that we engage everybody.
All right.
To us, the simplest thing or simplest analogy that I put forward is that the economic development of the country cannot happen if the country is ridden with crime.
Yeah.
So therefore, for the
There's no
economy to
debate
grow, we
about
must be able to deal with crime.
Absolutely.
And that's our message that we have been able to deliver yesterday.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's Thulasizwe, who is the Director General of the Civilian Secretariat for the Police Service, CSPS. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, new date for Matlanga Commission yet to be announced, and ANC dismisses DA's poll on Johannesburg. Good morning. A new date for the start of the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption is not yet known. The commission, which will be chaired by retired Justice Mbuyiseli Matlanga, was expected to begin on the 1st of next month. It has been postponed indefinitely after the announcement that the Justice Department failed to procure vital infrastructure on time. Briefing the media in Pretoria yesterday, the Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai said that she can't dictate when the commission will commence.
On the issues around the date, unfortunately, as I said earlier on, I'm not allowed to be the one that dictates to the commission when can they start. Our responsibility is to ensure that what they require to do their work is in place with the timeframes that we have provided.
Kubai has criticized the Commission's statement communicating a delay in proceedings as unfortunate.
I don't think I would have, I would have said they shouldn't say certain contents that they want, but I think giving us courtesy, especially because I've been very cooperative with them. They can get hold of me over my WhatsApp. They can call me anytime. I've been responsive to their email. Even less than 2 hours of what they send to me, I'm responding to them. I found it very unfair, what they've done.
The ANC has rubbished the DA's internal poll, which put it at just above 20% in Johannesburg, should the country go to municipal polls now. Currently, the ANC is in a government of local unity in Johannesburg. It lost the majority grip of the city in 2016, and since then it has been co-governing with other parties. Addressing the media in Johannesburg yesterday, ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula said the latest polls deliberately sought to project the ANC as a party in decline.
We need to understand that polls are not as innocent as they come. But as the ANC, we don't argue with polls. And what we are challenging is the DA poll that seeks to affirm themselves and promoted by the media as holier than thou. It's quite interesting that you wake up on a Sunday, a DA poll is in the front page, and then it says that the ANC will get 30%, and it comes from a particular stable. All what we are raising here is the fact that let us not shape the narrative unless you have surrendered your independence to become partisan and become mouthpiece of certain political parties.
The trial of the 6 men accused of killing 18 people in Lusikisiki and a politician last year continues in the local magistrates' court in the Eastern Cape. The 6 men are facing 29 charges, including 19 murder charges, attempted murder, kidnapping and possession of prohibited firearms and ammunition. Nkululeko Nyembezi reports.
Last week, a detective warrant officer, Ntsikelelo Sambudla, wrapped up his testimony, telling the court that 4 automatic rifles, magazines and ammunition were confiscated at accused number 6 Mawetu Nomdlembu's homestead at Ntezi village in Flagstaff. He also told the court that all confiscated firearms belonged to the accused number 1, Mzugis Ndamase. The testimony was dismissed by the court. Today, a new witness is expected to take the stand. Family members of the victims and the community are expected to continue their attendance at court.
And finally, thousands of Israeli protesters have rallied in Tel Aviv and other cities in support of the families of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. The rally follows a day of protests in which highways were blocked and crowds marched to the homes of government ministers. They surrounded the office of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a security cabinet meeting took place there. A father of one of the hostages, Nimrod Cohen, stated his demands.
Israel is standing against Netanyahu and his regime. Another day for protest, another day to make sure the issue of the hostages stays in high priority. Another day to pressure Netanyahu and force him to end the war and get a hostage deal.
Recapping the top story, a new date for the start of the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption is not yet known. The commission, which will be chaired by the retired Justice Mbuyiseli Matlanga, was expected to begin on the 1st of next month. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance is simply the best at ensuring you always get something out. Outsurance scored 9.99 on the Hello Peter Trust Index, a near 5-star rating on Google reviews, and have outperformed their personal best on the number of complaints referred to the Ombudsman per 1,000 claims. Switch for low prices and service you can trust. Visit outsurance.co.za today and see how much you also can get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, the epic Soweto showdown between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns tonight at 7:30. We also bring you US Open tennis thrills, where Coco Gauff surviving in dramatic fashion. All the details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Here's the big one. The run through Midrand coming in from Pretoria to Joburg. A crash. N1 south at Samrand. Traffic backed all the way through Bruckfontein interchange. Not too bad out of Pretoria. Coming through from Montana. That's clear, but you'll get to Bruckfontein and you'll sit in the heavy backlog. N3 north from Germiston's Elands interchange up to Bedford View's Galulis is quite slow. The N17 queuing towards Rondebolt Road as you leave Brackpan. That's into the roadworks. So the N1 moving up through Eldos and Devlin in through Deepcliff interchange, staying busy as well this morning. Durban already queuing pressure on the M7 into Pinetown, all clogged up over St John's Avenue queues as far back as Hans Detman. A crash on the side of the highway going into Spaghetti Junction. So from the M7 Bluff exit, there's some extra delays as you line up past that scene and up to the roadworks at Westwood Mall. Cape Town crashes on the N1 inbound at Hilbus, on the N2 inbound before you get to the N7, and no traffic lights on the N7 in front of Lunga at Blue Gum Road. Expect some delays coming off the N2 highway turning north towards Epping. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Wednesday. It's great to be in your company once again. Among some of what we will cover in this hour, in the second hour of the Morning Brief, will be a story that sort of, I suppose we're seeking to clarify issues of confusion that may have arisen as to the true status of Professor Bani Pityana in as far as the National Lotteries Commission is concerned, the board chairperson of the NLC. There were reports earlier on that suggested that he had resigned, and now we are being told that actually, in terms of clarity, it's not a resignation. It's him asking that he be allowed to retire. He has turned 80 years old, and I suppose, you can only imagine what the factors may be at play, what he wants to do with some of his time. So Professor Bani Pityana is on standby to clarify that matter for us and what its implications are for governance at the National Lotteries Commission. So that conversation is first up in this hour. And then immediately after that, I'll be talking to Karen Morn, and we'll be talking about this dramatic series of events that have now taken place around the Madlanga Commission. This is not the kind of start that the Commission would have wanted, I imagine, but also at the same time, it's not the kind of start that many South Africans had expected in that commission that is probing the allegations that were made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, allegations of criminality, political interference, as well as corruption within various sectors of the criminal justice system. So that conversation is coming up with Karen Morn at about 7:20. The Commission won't be having their first hearings on the 1st of September after all, and in their statement they made it clear that much of that, the blame for much of that lays squarely at the door of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. As a result, the Director General of that department, as well as one of the DDGs, the DDG for ICT, have been placed on suspension by Minister Mamuluko Gupai. And then later on, at about 7:45, we'll bring you that conversation about that court case that is coming up before the Constitutional Court, Embrace Project NPC and others versus Minister of Justice and Correctional Services and others. At the heart of it is the legal definition of rape that includes the words without consent. Civil society organizations and activists want that definition to be altered, those words to be removed, so that the burden is not on survivors and victims, but rather on the accused in how rape matters are prosecuted. So we'll be speaking to Thulasizwe Simelane at about 7:45 this morning. In it all, I'd love your voice to be a part of the conversation. As always, do call me 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes if you send them to 0614 107 0614 104 107. The Kathy way of saying this number seems to dribble me. Welcome to it, the second hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
I'm Andile Ncube umzilankathi isiqongo sinoJoji intombi eyazi ngizala ke suka le emzimkhulu egugweni ila ke inkaba yasala khona. Your son got a star on his forehead, brightens your every mood when you get as old as I am. What do I like about Mzansi or love? You know, it's home. Beyond football, I enjoy cricket. You know, or Andile ngesixhosa go Ace Mabheka. You know, my favorite nickname of all time, like Captain Yama 2000. In everything we do, just like the African continent is the beginnings of life, right? Just like women are the beginnings of life. The SABC and SABC Sport is exactly that.
Catch Andile, Captain Yama 2000 Ncube on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
15 minutes after 7. Confusion surrounds the future of the National Lotteries Commission Board Chair, Bani Pityana. Ground Up reported a few days ago that Pityana had resigned 2 years before his contract was due to end. But the Trade, Industry and Competition Minister, Park Stawu, is pushing back. He says the 80-year-old has not quit, but has simply asked to retire at the end of December. Professor Bani Pityana joins me now to clarify that matter. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Clarify for us, have you resigned or have you simply asked to be released early so that you go into retirement? And when does that come into effect?
I've been chairperson of the National Lotteries Commission from the 1st of September 2022 and on a contract until that, 3 years until August 2027, I think it is. Mm-hmm. But I've reached a point in my life and in my time that I think that I ought to focus on many other things that are unfinished business in my life. And therefore, I did request the minister for a release in order to enable me to just defocus on the National Lotteries Commission and pay attention to some of my academic and writing work and research work that remains unfinished. And the minister has accepted that as a retirement. But you see, I've retired and retired just like Madiwa. I've retired. I don't know how many retirements
and then retired
from retirement.
and then retired from retirement.
That's right. Yeah. So at the end of the day, though, Thulas, it's a semantic issue. I don't think anything turns on it. And the agreement with the minister, which I think I need his concurrence about this. The agreement with the minister is that I shall retire, if you like, on the 31st of December, in order to enable the minister, with the immediate effect, to set the processes in place to find a successor as chairperson of the National Lotteries Commission.
So where do you think the confusion came from? And I suppose you will understand concern given how closely we all are watching governance matters at the National Lotteries Commission, given all of the scandals and corruption that happened in the last few years.
No, it's just a toxic environment. People in our country tend to suspect everything. And there are people who think that I'm leaving because I've been unhappy with one thing or another, or I've been pushed out. All I can say is that there is no smoking gun in this matter. And I've had a very, very fulfilling 3 years. I went into the National Lotteries Commission with my eyes wide open. I had a very clear task, the restoration of the National Lotteries Commission to its mandate, to be able to do what it was set out to do by law, to deal with the cases of malfeasance and corruption that had happened, to rebuild the National Lotteries Commission for its service as a developmental institution of our country in the interests of the poor and the vulnerable people of our society. And that's what my colleagues and I have set out to do in the last 3 years. And I've reached a stage where I really think that any time you leave an organization like that can never be the good time. So sooner or later, I've got to draw a line somewhere. And I've decided to draw a line here. Part of the reason is that I think that the fourth license, which was a major issue in my tenure, the fourth license is there's clarity, although there's litigation that is bubbling.
Sure.
And that needs attention. I'll be available for wherever I'm needed for that. I'm quite satisfied that the work that was put in by my colleagues and I towards the determination of the fourth license was done superbly, clear and open, and with a lot of integrity that was built into it. So we are satisfied that we did what was needed to be done, and indeed we're open to public scrutiny.
And you don't believe any of that work has been tarnished by the revelations of relations and connections, for instance, to political players like the deputy president, to those people. Yeah.
So that's not in terms of what we did.
Yeah.
On the basis of what we had in front of us.
Okay.
Objectively speaking, we applied our minds, we applied the law, we applied all the traditions of oversight and all of that, and we did the right thing. And there was no bias whatsoever in terms of anybody, for that matter. And the minister took his time, and he took his time indeed. And he's explained to the court in his papers in court right now why he felt necessary in the execution of his duty to make a decision to take the time that he has taken. And it's up to the court to make a decision as to whether that was justified or not. But the minister is out there in public to say what he has done. And the minister has connected the dots, if you like, from what we did and how it was done, and I stand by that. The second thing we did was to restore governance in the National Lotteries Commission. And clearly there was a huge breakdown of governance. In fact, everything else that happened was because of good governance had broken down completely. So we needed to restore that. And we set in place, my colleagues and I, and the commissioner, we set in place all the systems of good governance that King 4 puts in place, and we rewrote the rules and regulations and the policies. 80 of them were rewritten in the time that we have done. As I stand, there are two things that I want to highlight. The first is that for the first time, we've had a clean audit by the Auditor General. The final thing is that for the first time since 2017, we are planning to have an indaba, an interaction with all our others, our beneficiaries, our sponsors, and our advisors, and everybody that we've been
I've got to
with,
leave it there.
so that we can chart a new course for the National Lottery.
All right.
And finally, we've got a strategic plan for the next 5 years.
All right, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Professor Pani Pityana, the outgoing chairperson of the National Lotteries Commission.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
What does extraordinary mean to you?
Is it enabling world-class healthcare through telemedicine?
Or empowering the delivery of water and electricity through smart meters?
AI, cloud, enterprise apps, IoT and security. One seamless ecosystem. Together, let's build the extraordinary that sustains today and protects tomorrow. Start your journey at VodacomBusiness.co.za. Further together, Vodacom Business.
Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair is here. It's time to treat yourself at your fabulous fragrance destination. Big date coming up? Find a fragrance that makes it unforgettable. Crushing it in the boardroom. Make an impression before you even speak. From fresh and floral to bold and unforgettable, get your perfect fragrance match at Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair. Don't miss out. Deals end 14 September.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
24 minutes after 7. Major administrative fallout from the delay to the start date of public hearings in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. In a dramatic turn of events, Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamulu Gugubai has suspended the department's Director General, Doc Mashabane, and its Deputy Director General for ICT, Jabu Hlajwayo, for what she calls failures and lapses in the system that led to the Madlanga Commission having to postpone its hearing dates from the originally announced 1 September. Following that very closely is award-winning journalist, legal journalist, Karen Morn, legal journalist, also documentary producer and best-selling author. Good morning to you, Karen, and thank you for your time. An extraordinary turn of events is how I frame it, in that there was that statement from the commission itself, followed immediately by all these dramatic steps, including the suspension of the DG and the DDG. What's at the heart of it? What's your understanding of what's going on here?
I think it's very pertinent and we can see that from the statement that came out from the minister herself, and even what she said to me, which of course is the lead for News 24 this morning, was around this issue of the IT system. And Thulasizwe, we will remember that, when, now retired former acting Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga had his press conference in July, he highlighted that the Commission had already begun its work, of course, investigating those explosive allegations from KZN Provincial Commissioner and Frontline Konazi, that they had already started their work, but there were two procurement key issues that needed to be resolved before public hearings could start and the Commission could really get into the nuts and bolts of what it's been required to investigate. And of course, that was the building, which has been finalized. It's the British Babanda building in Pretoria. But the second was this issue of IT infrastructure. And, we saw with what the minister was saying, she was really trying to take the pot off the stove in terms of what is clearly major issues in regard to this, was this issue of how documents, people would be able to make submissions to the inquiry, reveal potentially classified, highly sensitive, confidential data to the commission, and then it would be able to circulate that information amongst its own staff members, investigators, evidence leaders, the secretariat, etc., in a safe and secure manner that would not compromise the safety of the people who were providing it, and potentially allow it to fall prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. And Thulasizwe, as someone who obviously has studied law, you would know that would be essential, because for the first time, as far as I'm concerned, we have this extraordinary situation where the Commission's terms of reference place the safety and security of witnesses firmly in its hands. So in light of that, this issue around this IT safety of documentation is pivotal, and that seems to have been at the heart of these delays.
Is it merely a matter of someone dropping the ball on a crucial project for all of us, for everyone, let's say within the governance system, being viewed as, the DG and the administration dropped the ball on what is a key project and undertaking where all hands were supposed to be on deck and we were all supposed to show up for this particular process? Or is there something more to it, Karen? And I know you probed the minister on that, given the fact that the DG's contract has a few months to go on it.
Look, we know very little at this point. In fairness, this commission was put together in a very, very short timeline. This was not a state capture inquiry scenario where, of course, we saw that, pre-existing litigation from the then President Jacob Zuma over the institution of the inquiry. The inquiry, took several months before the inquiry got going, eventually in sort of late 2018, early 2019. This is a commission because of the allegations that have been made by Mkhwanazi and its real, relevance for the justice system and the law enforcement environment as it currently stands, where there was very, very tight timelines put on it. And I think that the Madlanga really understands the pivotal necessity for this process, because it strikes at the heart of the legal system, the political environment, the judiciary, the state security, every aspect of really what are pivotal arms of government that ensure public confidence in those arms of government at a time where that public confidence, I would argue, is very, very dangerously low. So the timelines were very, very tight. But, we don't know, Thulasizwe, if this was a case where, normal PFMA procurement requirements that are very much enforced to ensure that emergency tenders are not used as a basis to bring in people, for instance, at highly elevated prices that are problematic for taxpayers, or was this a scenario where there was obstruction? And at this point, we simply don't know. It's only when those DC processes persist against those individuals that we will get those levels of insight.
Karen, I've got to thank you for your time as always. Karen Moon, senior legal journalist, documentary producer, and best-selling author. Let's go to Ann Musa, and then I'll come back with Zai Khan in a moment.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the EFF says it's not surprised by the announcement of the indefinite delay in the commencement of the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System. The ANC has rubbished the DA's internal poll, which put it at just above 20% in Johannesburg, should the country go to municipal polls now. Currently, the ANC is in a government of local unity in Johannesburg. And a Stellenbosch University study has found that South Africa's education system is at a crossroads, with nearly half of public school teachers set to retire in the next decade. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. 2 crash scenes on the M1 South to work through, one at Samrand and another down by Allendale. Make sure you got plenty of time out of Pretoria through Midrand to Joburg. It is heavy today. M12, but only through Boksburg, heavy as it is these days. And 2 roadworks on the N17 now, one between Carnival City and Rondebolt Road, and another lot as you come into Wits Rifles. There's 2 queues on the N17. And Klip River Drive, turning off the N12 north up through Southdale towards Joburg. A crash there, causing some big backlogs as well. Durban's M7, bluff-bound solid from Queensborough. Down towards the N2. The N2 has a crash just before Spaghetti Junction and roadworks just after. So from the M7, that's all heavily backed up. Cape Town collision on Baden-Powell Drive at Jeff Decay Massamola, causing some backlogging. Lights are out on the N7 at Blue Gum in front of Lunga, causing a delay up Jake Scoville from as far back as Vangate Mall. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you once again. So an epic showdown, Amakosi versus Masandawana, and it's happening in Soweto, yeah?
Oh my God, Soweto is going to be on fire. This is like the family feud where everyone's invited. So looking forward to the action tonight as Kaizer Chiefs aim to maintain their unbeaten start to the Betway Premiership. They'll face the reigning champions, Sundowns, FNB Stadium, tonight, 7:30 p.m. Chiefs have secured 9 points from 3 games, vaulting them to second place, just behind Sekhukhune United on goal difference. Now, the Chiefs midfielder, Inacio Miguel, insisting they aren't taking Sundowns lightly despite their early season pressure. Meanwhile, Sundowns are sweating on as well. So they've got some training that will force some of their team members. It's going to be a tense showdown. You can catch it live on SABC Sport. Now, in yesterday's DStv Premiership action, TS Galaxy, they impressed with a 2-0 win over Siwelele. Orlando Pirates continuing their steady start, edging Orbit College 1-0. Richards Bay also finding success with a 1-0 victory over Chippa United. Meanwhile, Polokwane City and Durban City played out to a goalless draw, sharing the spoils. Now, the Stellenbosch FC coach, Steve Barker, was grateful after his team finally recorded a Betway Premiership win, and that's at their 4th attempt. They edged Marumo Gallants 1-0. And of course, he also says they've had a busy schedule since the start of the month and is happy to have a few days before a big game against Mamelodi Sundowns this weekend.
Yes, I think we've come off the travel from Pirates, although it didn't come back. We went straight to Polokwane, so to have qualified for the final and then getting our first home win and having maybe an extra day recovery because Sundowns play tomorrow and they then have to travel, I think it is what we need. And I think we need to put in one big effort on Saturday, and then there is a bit of a FIFA break, and then we can give the players 3 or 4 days off to just regenerate after this sort of hectic period that we've had.
Springboks, they're facing a massive challenge. They head into a 2-match tour of New Zealand against the All Blacks. In over 30 years of professional rugby, the Boks managed just 4 wins in New Zealand, and the last back in 2018. Now, the Springbok women, they're gearing up for a crucial clash against Italy this weekend. Kickoff is for Sunday around 4:30. South Africa riding high after their 66-6 victory over Brazil, and Italy, they lost 24-0 to France in their opener and will be fighting to keep their campaign alive. A win for the Bok women will secure their spot in the quarterfinals. And finally, Coca Golf was pushed to the limit but came through in 3 sets against Alia Tomljanovic, while Naomi Osaka powered past Greece Minen in straight sets. And the men's side, Alexander Zverev opened strongly, dispatching Alejandro Tabilo in straight sets, and the American Tommy Paul advancing comfortably. Roman Safiullin edging Game on Feast in a 5-set battle to move into round 2. We'll serve up more sport. Top of the hour, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's start in the property sector. Tell me about Redefine Properties lifting its annual guidance.
Now, the owner of malls like Benmore Centre and Centurion Mall seems to be positive about its prospects, and so it's upgraded its full-year distributable income guidance, pointing to improved operational momentum. Now, the positive development is attributed to enhanced efficiencies and a disciplined capital structure. Operationally, occupancy levels have firmed up and renewal reversions have shown steady improvement. The group's industrial portfolio continues to excel with strong demand for logistics facilities. Although the office sector has historically been a weak spot, Redefine says it is displaying signs of recovery, particularly in premium grade buildings, adding that renewal activity has also stabilized, instilling some sort of confidence and positive income growth moving forward. Now, looking at its international assets in Poland, Redefine's portfolio has performed well, with occupancies holding firm at 97.9% and rent collection nearing 100%. The group further added that trading conditions are better than what they were at the beginning of the year, pointing to additional rate cuts that have come through, which bode well for the sector at large.
Let's stay in the property sector, Ndauling. Tell me about Delta ditching one of its office properties. It's in the leafy suburb of Parkmore, is it?
That's right. That's right, Thulas. Now, the property group just continues to rejig its portfolio, and this time around, as you've mentioned, ditching one of its office properties in Parkmore and selling that property for 19 million rands to Afrocentric Intellectual Property. Interestingly, the sale price exceeds the property's most recent valuation of 18.1 million rands, and this deal marks another step in Delta's efforts to streamline its portfolio and comes as commercial office property. The commercial office property market deals with a weak demand and rising vacancies, and so Delta says that it is focusing on shedding underutilized properties. The company plans to use the proceeds from the sales along with two other recent disposals to pay off its debt. These disposals include a property in Kimberley and Pine Parkade, a leasehold, both of which have been successfully transferred. Delta's decision to divest these properties is part of a broader strategy to cut losses and optimize its portfolio following a net loss of 104.2 million rand that it reported in its last financial year, and that was largely due to increased expected credit losses and higher taxation charges.
And how are the markets looking at this hour, Ndauling?
So starting in Asia, stocks are mixed, with investors holding off on making big bets. Traders are also digesting downbeat Chinese industrial profit numbers. With that, we are seeing the Hong Kong Hang Seng taking a knock this morning, down over 1/3%. Over in Wall Street, futures flat. Traders there eyeing Nvidia's earnings and the US GDP print out later this week. And then coming back home, markets are in the red, with the all-share shedding 0.5%. Some weakness, though, coming through in the currency as seen this hour, with the rand at 17.64 to the greenback. Crude also in the red this morning, trading just above $66 per barrel.
Ndauling, thank you. We'll talk to you one more time just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
From the brilliant buzz of Joburg to the beautiful beaches of the Eastern Cape, Fly Safair has you covered. That's right, from 1st November, we'll be flying from Lanseria Airport to both East London and PE, just in time for the holiday rush. Tickets are on sale now from only 770 Rand. So whether it's for work or play, plan your Eastern Cape escape from Lanseria or vice versa. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of fly. T's and C's apply.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Spar brings you Super Savings. Get 120-gram Lay's potato chips, any two for 36 Rand, and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 2-liter Pepsi, Mirinda, or Mountain Dew, original only, any 2 for 30 Rand, and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, so I see that the delay in the start of the public hearings in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry really exercising your mind, at least for many of you this morning, but also the issues around the Constitutional Court and its decision that it won't hear a direct appeal by the family of the late Zambian president, Edgar Lungu, around where he is to be buried, a saga that has played itself out for at least the last 2 months or so. So let me take a few of your voice notes and then I'll go straight to your calls.
Good morning, Thulasizwe and SAFM listeners. It's Philip Tiano of Richards Bay. I would like to say thank you to General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. This Madlanga Commission's failure to start on exact date that was given by them is just an evidence of what Mkhwanazi said. You know, no other questions need to be asked about our judiciary. We thank you, Mkhwanazi. Shamas.
Morning, Sonia from Centurion. Commission comes, commission goes, and the South African government think the people are stupid. Thanks for a great show.
Morning, Thulas and the listeners. This is Nati from Cape Town. Thulas, man, on my mind today, I just wanted to say this thing of Roman Dutch law does not serve our needs as Africans. Look what is happening with Edgar Lungu case. An African man sitting there and then he can be buried while we're still waiting for the courts to decide where is he supposed to be buried. That's really unfair and un-African. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And I think part of it is just the complexity of the case itself. We've been saying over a period of time that it involves what they call a choice of law, questions that have to do with which law is applicable here. Is it Zambian law or is it South African law? Was there an agreement between the family and the Lungu family, the Lungu family on the one hand and the Zambian government on the other hand? It's been a complex matter, and it's not helped by the fact that there doesn't seem to be any willingness to compromise and perhaps reach a negotiated solution to these matters. It seems both parties are willing to litigate all the way to the end of this matter. What the ConCourt has said is that you won't come to us directly. Go to the other courts. So you've had an outcome in the High Court. Why don't you go and appeal at the SCA before you come directly to the Constitutional Court? But all of it, I've always been of the view that there needs to be a solution between the Lungu family and the Zambian government. It really is the one way that would restore a level of dignity to this particular process. Let me take a call from Warren in Stutterheim. Good morning to you, Warren.
Good morning, listeners and yourself.
You want to talk about the 470 odd
Yes.
Political parties we have?
All these
You're spoiled for choice,
the
Warren.
flora.
What?
Well, I think we half sophisticated, half unsophisticated. I used to stay in Joburg 40 odd years, and I've been down in Stutterheim for only about 30 odd. Okay, now you take the voters in this area. With all due respect to them, they've got cell phones, they go to SASTA, etc. But voting, why you have to vote? I don't think these people have got a clue sometimes of how politics work. And now with more political parties coming on the scene, it's nonsensical. We need the maximum is 4, possibly 5 major political parties in this country. We don't need more, okay? And they're trying to do something that I'm not even sure, and I don't even think they are sure of what they actually want. It's not democracy. Please, this is not democracy. It's a very skewed, I think, and that's my personal opinion, of how a country should be
All
run.
right.
I don't have any idea. What do you think, please?
Yeah. No, I hear you, Warren, but I just think that the number of political parties we have is the result of the diversity of our society. There's always, I'm going to let you go at this point, Warren, as I respond to the point you've made, that it's the result of the diverse society that we are. At any given point, there are diverse interests that want to find expression, and we call ourselves a multi-party democracy. I don't think there's anything wrong. It does get ridiculous in terms of the number of political parties that will eventually be on the ballot paper, and I've heard conversations that say perhaps we may want to relook at the threshold for people being on the ballot paper. But already there are certain thresholds and certain deposits that need to be paid ahead of a party contesting elections. And I think those have worked to a certain extent in terms of filtering out. You may have more than 400 political parties registered, but not all of them contest elections, and certainly not on the national ballot. That really is all I can say. I don't have the wisdom to determine what is an adequate number of political parties in a country as diverse as ours. Willie or Vili, you want to talk to me about the Madlanga Commission. Good morning to you. It's Willie, yeah?
Yebo, Thulas.
Yebo.
Thulas, this issue of Madlanga Commission really makes us run sort of wait and fail us. And then to the level that we get so frustrated and then we get so hurtful because you remember we've been talking before that these commissions are going to be prolonged and prolonged. And this, unfortunately, to us, it's really gut-wrenchingly frustrating because these criminal justice system or the people concerned should have known better that okay, the procurement system, blah 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 blah, they are going to lay on that issue. So what? Now we are left just as hurtful as we are to us. We don't know. The person that must be called is the president. And the president to step down one time. But Kubai, the Minister of Justice for now, she's doing her best by suspending them, she must just put her 2 feet on the ground by suspending and by being strict on this issue. Thank you, Thulas.
Thanks, Willie. Willie in Kuma. Let me go straight to Maxwell, who's also on the same point around the delays in the Madlanga Commission. Good morning to you, Maxwell.
Good morning, Thulas. I've got 2 points. I'll be very quick. First one, you've got no way to hide 7:30 at the FNB, Thulas. Then the Madlanga Commission.
Sure, I'm listening.
Then I think the minute the president says this matter is urgent as possible, all the red tapes should have been cleared away to us, because we won't be in this case, because a lot of people are very concerned about what Mkwana said, and it needs to be tested at the end of the day. Then we've got those loopholes and technical issues that drag the whole matter. We don't even know when the commission is going to start. My other point that I want to challenge you and your team, asset belief. Get Zef Mkwanas in Mpumalanga. I think we've got the wrong Mkwanas in Mpumalanga. And you check the murders that are happening, especially in the Lowveld, Mukuru area, the whole Bushbuck Ridge. Nobody has ever been arrested. But we are saying that we're protecting the people. I'm not happy about the situation. Last week, the MEC of the police in Mpumalanga went to the wrong location in Akonhuku. I know that they say GBV, what and what is high that side, but they ignored Mkufu Township, where the murders are happening. So please work them out. We want to know what is happening in that part of the world.
Maxwell, thank you. And that irony of that situation, that coincidence was not lost on me, that the MEC was actually in one part of Bushbuck Ridge as a murder was taking place with high-powered rifles being fired at people in broad daylight. It was happening in Mkhuhlu, another area within that particular region. So thank you for that. It does deserve to be picked up. JCK in Musina and Janusz, could I call you back a bit later, please? I do need to take the traffic with Rob Byrne.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty heavy on the N3 South in Joburg. A crash at Galuli's interchange. So coming from Modderfontein Road through Linksfield and in towards the interchange. It's all heavily backed up. Crash on Klip River Drive near Sophia Road in Southdale. So if you're coming up Klip River Drive or you're turning off the N12 onto Klip River Drive to get up to Joburg, might want to elect to avoid that this morning. There's quite a heavy backlog. Crash again, another one. N1 North at Diepkloof. Very heavy coming through from the N12 Potch Highway. And 2 roadwork jobs underway now between Brakpan and Germiston. The first is queue into Rondebolt Road, and then the second between Osborne Road and Wits Rifles Road. Durban, has been a truck that's dropped a load of oil on the M7. That's resulted in a multi-vehicle crash. That's all happening just before the N2. If you're bluff-bound, traffic's heavy this morning from Queensborough, M7 towards that N2. All backed up. The N2 running north from the M7 to Westwood Mall is bad, and the M7 into Pinetown's been really busy this morning. Traffic queuing from Hunstedman up over St John's Avenue Bridge territory. Cape Town side this morning, M5 has a slightly different traffic pattern for this time of day, but it's still a heavy queue from Racecourse Road at Kenilworth all the way through to the Coburg interchange. Traffic right through that section today. Brackenfell Boulevard up to Langeberg Road in Durbanville. That is quite heavy. And a crash on Baden-Powell Drive near Jafta Masamola, just slowing traffic at the bottom of Khayelitsha, particularly heavy going through that junction past that crash towards the N2 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This week on FC Meets, Tisetso and Bandile sit down with Mamelodi Sundowns ladies dribbling wizard Lehlohonolo Mashego. Find out about her rise to the top of women's football on the African continent and what motivates her to aim even higher. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Rechencha Game, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
6 minutes to 8. Let's turn to that story now that I was telling you about, that brewing court case out of the Constitutional Court. The country's legal definition of rape could soon change if these activists have their way. The Constitutional Court will hear a case on the 25th of September that challenges the current wording of the law. At issue is the phrase without consent in the legal definition of rape. Activists want those words removed. They argue the focus should not be on whether a survivor can prove that they did not consent, but on the conduct of the alleged perpetrator. So let's speak to Basetsana Koyitswe, who joins me now, who is the Acting Executive Director for Lawyers Against Abuse. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So in terms of the Sexual Offences Act, the definition is there. It says any person, A, who unlawfully and intentionally commits an act of sexual penetration with a complainant, B, without the consent of B, is guilty of the offence of rape. What about that doesn't sit right with you and perhaps hinders the fight against sexual violence in our country?
Good morning to Thulasizwe, and good morning to your viewers, and thank you so much for having me on this morning. I think at the onset it's very important to actually make sure that the viewers do understand that on the 25th of September, the Constitutional Court will be hearing two cases, basically on the same issue, which is which is whether or not the definition of rape in our current South African law should be amended. So the third applicant in this case, which is the Center for Applied Legal Studies, this case was dismissed in the 2024 High Court decision. In the 2024 High Court decision, and what the Center for Applied Legal Studies had argued in this case was that at the end of the day, as long as we have the words whether or not there was consent, and if the inquiry will always be around whether or not there has been consent, and that being a definitional element, then what inevitably is going to happen is that victims and survivors of sexual violence and rape will always be in a position where they will have to argue and show that in fact there was or was not consent. And we all know that this inquiry often goes into the sexual history of the victim or the survivor, often unearthing and re-emphasizing stereotypes, gender stereotypes, and gender norms that we know perpetuate heavily in our South African society. And so what the Center for Applied Legal Studies is arguing for is a complete removal of the term without consent, possibly replaced by words like coercive measures, where then it will flip the inquiry to the perpetrator to show that, in fact, there was consent.
And I see that there's a bit of work being done to try and inform some of the arguments as well as the thinking around this matter. I see that there's work being done around a white paper that will be called The Perfect Victim versus the Imperfect Victim. Does that talk to the difficulties encountered in the work that you do in supporting survivors of rape, going through the various processes, including court processes, that the focus when it's on consent, sometimes you find out what lawyers have been saying, that there is no perfect victim?
100%. So really, this report, in collaboration with London-based arts company Sisters Grimm, really examines how societal and institutional perceptions of victims of sexual violence in South Africa really affect whether or not victims, number one, report cases, or whether they would then withdraw those cases. So our paper really analyzes this issue through, as you said, the lens of the perfect and imperfect victim narrative, and it specifically highlights how these stereotypes affect responses from the criminal justice system itself and society at large. And as you correctly point out, this paper really chronicles the stories of victims and survivors that we at our center deal with on a day-to-day basis.
I'm just curious, though, how would it work if, the litigants are successful on the 25th of September? How would it work if those words without consent were removed? How would that be distinguished from ordinary, sexual conduct that people engage in the ordinary cause, and with consent? Because that really is the differentiator between what's lawful and what's unlawful. And how would we be able to guard against allegations of rape that are not, founded on actual incidents that have occurred, what is known as false allegations?
Right. So in this case, I would like to make perhaps an example to say if there's a parked car on the road and the key is in the ignition and the door is open, often if somebody who does not own the car hops into the car and drives off, it's considered that the car was stolen and that there was no consent in that car being stolen just because the keys were in the ignition. In this same instance, we're asking that cases of sexual violence and rape be treated the same, where on the offset, it should be that when a victim comes forward to say that they have been raped or sexually violated, that then it becomes the burden of the perpetrator to show that, in fact, there was consent. So in this case, what we have right now in South African law is that a perpetrator can say that they mistakenly thought that there was consent. Mm-hmm. And this is where the Toko case comes in, yes, where in that instance, the accused mistakenly believed, even though he was mistaken, believed that in fact there was consent because of various things that had taken place that evening. Mm-hmm. And so what we're saying is we want to remove that subjectivity, because a lot of times perpetrators get off just on this basis and relying on stereotypes such as, you came to my room. we were drinking, we were dressed a certain way. Therefore, I thought, even though mistakenly, however, I did think there was consent.
I see. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Basetsana Koyitswe is Acting Executive Director for Lawyers Against Abuse. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, EFF unsurprised by delay of Madlanga Commission and growing shortage of teachers sparks uncertainty. Good morning. The EFF says it's not surprised by the announcement of the indefinite delay in the commencement of the Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. This follows the announcement by the Commission yesterday, which is chaired by retired Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga. The Commission says hearings will not start on the 1st of next month as anticipated due to delays in the procurement of vital infrastructure. EFF National Spokesperson Sinao Tambo.
We weren't surprised. We had said at the time when Cyril Ramaphosa placed Senzo Mchunu on a special leave, which is not provisioned for in the Constitution of South Africa, that this is nothing but a political ploy to play on the anxieties of the people of South Africa, because we all know that commissions in this country are ordinarily established to ensure that we forget the transgression in the immediate and over time we focus on another topical issue. Now this is part and parcel of something that vindicates us, because if there was no forethought as to how this is going to be funded, how the infrastructure for it is going to be sourced, but also damningly the fact that there's no existing infrastructural capacity to host a mere commission, means that it was established just to play to the political gallery.
Meanwhile, a new date for the commencement of the Commission of Inquiry is not yet known. Briefing the media, Justice Minister Mamoloko Kubai said she can't dictate when the Commission will start.
On the issues around the date, unfortunately, as I said earlier on, I'm not allowed to be the one that dictates to the Commission when can they start. Our responsibility is to ensure that what they require to do their work is in place with the timeframes that we have provided.
The ANC has rubbished the DA's internal poll, which put it at just above 20% in Johannesburg, should the country go to municipal polls now. Currently, the ANC is in a government of local unity in Johannesburg. It lost the majority grip of the city in 2016, and since then it has been co-governing with other parties. Addressing the media in Johannesburg yesterday, ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula said the latest polls deliberately sought to project the ANC as a party in decline.
We need to understand that polls are not as innocent as they come. But as the ANC, we don't argue with polls. And what we are challenging is the DA poll that seeks to affirm themselves and promoted by the media as holier than thou. It's quite interesting that you wake up on a Sunday, a DA poll is in the front page, and then it says that the ANC will get 30%, and it comes from a particular stable. All what we are raising here is the fact that let us not shape the narrative unless you have surrendered your independence to become partisan and become mouthpiece of certain political parties.
Former ANC national spokesperson Pule Mabe and 6 others are expected to appear before the Palmer Ridge Magistrates Court this morning. Mabe, his wife and 5 others are facing charges ranging from fraud, corruption and assisting another to benefit from proceeds of unlawful activities. The charges stem from an investigation conducted by the SIU and the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation into a tender worth over 27 million rand that was allegedly unlawfully awarded to his company EnviroMobi in March 2017 to supply 200 three-wheeled waste collection vehicles. Lerato Makola reports.
Former African National Congress national spokesperson Pule Mabe is also accused of allegedly demanding a further 9 million rand for safekeeping, storage, and ancillary services relating to the goods. However, he has pleaded his innocence, saying it was not a crime for an ANC member to do business with the state.
The state is today expected to wrap up its argument that charges against accused number 4 in the Senzumehiwa murder trial not be withdrawn. Rebutting Mthokoziseni Mapisa's lawyer's argument, the state prosecutor, Advocate George Beloy, said there is enough evidence linking Mapisa to the 2014 killing. Mapisa and 4 others are in the dock as the state contends it was a contractual assassination ordered by Mehiwa's then-girlfriend Kelly Khumalo. And finally, a Stellenbosch University study has found that South Africa's education system is at a crossroads, with nearly half of public school teachers set to retire in the next decade. A growing shortage of teachers has sparked uncertainty in the sector. Margarita Nikas is principal at St. Benedict's College in Bedfordview in Johannesburg.
Why do young people want to come into a school space and then be abused, by very angry parents or difficult children, and be paid very little for it as well? So therefore you do find that there's a dearth of young people wanting to come into the profession, and those of us in our 50s are facing retirement within the next 10 years.
Recapping the top story, the EFF says it's not surprised by the announcement of the indefinite delay in the commencement of the Commission of Inquiry into criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
If you want to save on your car insurance premium, you call Outsurance, right? But what if you don't save? Well, they'll give you cash just for trying. You heard right. Just ask for 500 Rand cash. But wait, there's more. If you don't save and have been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years, you can ask them for 1,500 Rand cash. Savings or cash, you always get something out.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. It's soccer. The unbeaten Amakhosi, they welcome back their coach Nazruddin Nabi. Can he extend their perfect start? And we've also got US Open tennis action. South Africa's top-ranked men's tennis player Lloyd Harris booking a place in the second round. We'll have the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start east of Joburg. An important note for N17 users. There's now 2 sets of roadworks between Brakpan and Germiston. One at Rondebolt Road and then another as you come into Wits Rifle. So it is slow. Crash on the N3 South before Galuli's interchange. Very heavy passing Edenvale. Make sure you got plenty of time if you're going N3 South to get to the airport. Crash on the M1 North at Deepcliff causing delays from Eldos, and a collision on Clip River Drive near Sophia Road in Southdale. That's a heavy backlog coming up off the N12 highway on your way through to Johannesburg. Pretoria side this morning, the N4, this is the Bakwena Highway, moving in towards Durbanpur Plaza, towards the M1. There's some very heavy backlogging going on there. Durban, an oil spillage and a crash scene, M7 down towards the N2. If you're bluff-bound, there's a big delay from the Queensborough side this morning. Crash on St John's Avenue, that's the M7 at Bamboo Lane, Central Pinetown. Very heavy going in from Hans Detman side today. And Cape Town, a crash on Baden-Powell near Jafta K, Masemola at the bottom of Khayelitsha. That's slow. And your highways around Cape Town this morning, N1 pretty heavy from Plattekloof Hill towards City Centre, M3 from around about Constantia, top of Wynberg Hill, making your way slowly right through to Hospital Bends. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning and welcome to it. The third hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. We are leading the conversations that move us. Let me just quickly reflect on some of what you've been sending on the WhatsApp line. Before I do that, I do need to make a call, right? Make a call to our listener, Dumisani. who called us on Monday from Durban. And Dumisani was raising this issue around a learnership that he said is linked to Umgeni water. And he had said it has to do with a nephew of his who got this learnership that has to do with teaching graduates and them being roped in to assist one way or another, but that happening under the auspices of Umgeni Water. I couldn't really understand the full details, but Dumisani, if you can, may you please call us back, because Umgeni Water has reached out to us and they would want to find out more details and perhaps see if they can assist. They've really been anxious and keen to see if they can assist in that situation. So do give us a call so that we can connect the two of you and see if your nephew can be assisted out of that situation. With that said, then let me go to the messages that have been coming through. Someone here says the tourism board had one of the reputable people, Lawson Naidu, so nobody is going to buy Patricia's excuse that the board did anything wrong. She is trying to use some small technicality, if any, to avoid scrutiny. All payments and tenders under the former CEO must be investigated. Of course, the CEO remains in office. It's just that the CEO has been suspended. That has to do with the continuing controversy following the dismissal of the board at SA Tourism by the Minister of Tourism, Patricia de Lille. And of course, a bit later on, we will bring that issue under the spotlight at about 8:45 this morning. We'll be focusing on it a little bit. And then someone else here weighing in on the delays around the Madlanga Commission and now suspension of the Director General at the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. This person says the only person who should be fired in all of this is Gupai herself. What was the DG supposed to do? The procurement legislation stipulates the number of days all tenders must be advertised. She should have advised Cyril, that President Ramaphosa, that the terms of reference should say 3 months after the start of the commission. And that has to do with the interim report that we are told by the commission may be slightly delayed now, given the delays in starting with public hearings. And then someone else says the KZN commissioner will be thrown under the bus, and there's no further substantiation on that. And then lastly, let me read this one from Brian Mabaye in Protea Glen, who says the former Zambian president's case just takes me to the telenovela series Mubango. Who has the right to bury a loved one? I also challenge the listeners on this one. Who has the rights to bury a loved one after death, the wife or the in-laws? Because of our different cultural differences. So that's a challenge there. There you have it from Brian Mabaye, saying that it reminds him of the telenovela Mubango, and also saying who has the right to bury a loved one, the wife or other family members, that is the in-laws. Keep it going. Give me a call, 086 000 2032, or send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. With that said, let's get the third hour of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
After a 1-0 loss against Arsenal in the opening match of the new season, the Red Devils are searching for a win at Old Trafford.
Mason Mount! Oh, what a finish from Mason Mount! Held it home 2-1.
However, the Clarets are gunning for a crucial 3 points away from home.
Just from Brownell! We're all square! What a goal from Burnley!
This is the Premier League. Experience Manchester United versus Burnley FC on Saturday 30 August at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, the following conversation is brought to you and sponsored by the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality. Are you struggling to pay your municipal bills? Well, there's good news for you. The Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality has launched a revenue enhancement debt relief program to help residents, businesses and non-profits clear old debt and reconnect to essential municipal services. It's all part and parcel of what the Metro calls a people's budget. So to tell us more about that aspect, the people's budget, is the NMB Executive Mayor, Councillor Babalwa Lobishe. Good morning to you, Mayor, and thank you for your time. Briefly take us through the processes that you underwent as a Metro and also how you came to the conclusion that you were going to frame your budget as being a people's budget. What makes it a people's budget?
Good morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. We are calling it a people's budget because we've gone through extensive means of reaching out to our people and to formulate an inclusive integrated development plan, which we know legislatively we are required to do so, but we made means of making sure that each ward has a way of expressing its needs, and as well the consolidated submissions from civil society, business, and also all other sectors across all 60 wards have been part of what we made sure that is consolidated in our plan.
So our understanding is that the budget is to the tune of some 20 billion rand, all funded. Please break it down for us a little bit and give us the highlights for our listeners to understand.
It's actually 21.6 billion budget, which is fully funded, and 15 billion in the budget is set aside for operational expenditure, meaning the salaries of the workers, the maintenance of infrastructure, refuse collection, electricity and water services, and other day-to-day activities are all clubbed in the 15 billion. And 3 billion on it is allocated for capital expenditure, which is meant for building and upgrading of infrastructure, roads, water pipes and housing, and other electricity substations. And the rest is reserved for repayment of debt and maintaining financial sustainability for the city. We are making sure that every cent spent is of real value to our residents.
And the budgeting process is, as always, accompanied by the IDP public consultation programs. Tell me what emerged from those and how you tried to marry what's coming out from the views expressed by Metro residents and marry that with your priorities. Share with us some of the main priorities.
Well, the key priority areas for this financial year is the provision of water security and infrastructure upgrades, in addressing the water leakages and improving supply of water, and also investing in the drought resilience plan of our city. One would remember that our city is drought-stricken, so part of what we wanted to make sure is that water security is provided. And secondly, in terms of the roads and water maintenance, fixing potholes and improving drainage system is our priority number 2. And priority number 3 is electricity upgrades and access, especially in the informal settlements and growing communities. Priority number 4 is human settlement, our continuous housing development and addressing informal housing. One would remember that the informal settlements are 125 in the city. So it's part of the priorities to try and formalize them and give them access to decent settlements. Number 5 is priority. The 5th priority is water management, cleaning services, which means that we want to improve our turnaround time on cleanliness in our communities. Yeah. The 6th priority is job creation, economic development through public works and the support of SMMEs.
Yeah. How will you address the outcry that has been there in the past from members of the public and other stakeholders that had to do with poor budget spending, which has often resulted in service delivery backlogs?
Well, there were two areas that were contributing to that fact. Is that in terms of our supply chain office, we were not adequately resourced in terms of human resource. So the manager has been appointed and other junior staff that were not there. And also policies of supply chain has been revised so that they are responsive to what we want to achieve. Thirdly, is the recruitment of senior directors. There were vacancies. We've concluded the process. Now in September, we're supposed to be taking it to council so that employment happens. So there should be no excuse moving forward because there would be permanent employees to deal and be more accountable for such moving forward. Also including planning the project plans, which were not there in the past. We've started earlier in the year to make sure that each project that will be adopted in June has a project plan so that it does not delay the processes of implementation.
Lastly, Mayor, how will you deal with the questions around unauthorized, wasteful and irregular expenditure?
Well, we've said with MPEC chairperson, and there is a decision for us to start with the last financial year move backwards, instead of us entertaining reports that are 10 years back, but to try and curb the recurrence of what is currently happening in the city of escalating unwasteful and unauthorized expenditure. So the other matter is that we have taken to council the plan, which was derived by MPEC committee, which we think that it was what was lacking for all of us to understand that work is being done, and also the advices of audit and risk committee are also tabled at the mayoral committee and also at council level. So in that manner, curbing more risk prevailing in the city is going to assist us to be more prudent in terms of handling public finance.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning. That's the Executive Mayor of Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality, Councillor Babalwa Lobishe, in that conversation that was brought to you and sponsored by the Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality.
Lina Lakake Tlampokekana, I'm former Mamelodi Sundowns captain. I'm a sports analyst la go SABC Sport. When I'm home, I try by all means to practice cooking. My favorite home cooked meal, I'll go for pap and masonja because I can prepare that with easy. What do I normally get up to when I get a moment to myself where I would easily, play my guitar? I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour, comment ça va? So if I didn't play beautiful football, I think I was gonna be a baseball player. What do I like about SABC Sport is the fact that we given an opportunity to educate.
Catch the exciting Diski analysis by Sompo Long Range Kakana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So you thought you were building a business. In this economy. Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me take two quick voice notes. The first one is on the postponement of the public hearings of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, as well as another one that talks to the court case that is looming before the Constitutional Court, in which the legal definition of the crime of rape will be challenged, with the challenge arguing that the words without consent should be removed to remove the burden on survivors and victims and put the burden on the accused.
Hi, Thulasizwe and the SFM listener. Mr. Postponement, Sarah Ramaphosa, he's postponing, forever postponing. He postponing this commission now. He's postponing the election that it might be November, December, January. He's looking for something. I think like he's just saving his mayor so that they can save him, and then they're looking for something for that day. It's Mr. Postponement. This guy, he think is owning our country, is owning ourselves.
Thank you for that. I'm laughing simply because, in fairness to the president, the postponement, one, came from the commission itself. Two, the reasons are being advanced. Whether or not you buy into them is a different story. But from the narrative coming from the Minister of Justice, he's just as unhappy, he being the president, in that he's the one who authorized the minister to take action against the people that led to the postponement. So just putting it into perspective. But I get the point you are making about, I've heard people even calling him Rama Postponer. So that association with now we have this whole situation being postponed. I just thought I'd put that perspective. And then secondly, in as far as the elections are concerned, there's always a range between the end of the term of the current, whether it be at national, provincial or local government. There's a range. There's never really a clear date. For all we know, when the president does promulgate and announce a date, it might just be a date that is in November. But what the IEC does is give you the range to say, we are preparing ourselves even before the date is announced, that the election may be between this date and that date. But I get the point you are making, absolutely. The coincidence of yet another postponement within this administration.
Morning to us, morning to your guest. Look, can we be clarified so that we're on the safe side? The consent must, women carry consent forms where they agree and we sign, or must take it on video. How are we going to verify that there was consent? How are we going to verify? Because this thing seems to be rampant. Major from Guatemala.
Major, thank you for that. I think a big takeout for me from the conversation we had earlier on was almost like the benefit of the doubt element in the defense that accused have been able to advance until this point in the issues of rape, where you can argue that I believed that consent was present. I believed that it was present. So I think from that conversation, the big takeaway from me was that they would want that element of giving almost a benefit of the doubt. Yes, right now the belief needs to have been reasonable and based on various observations in the situation read by the court when evidence is being led. But from what I heard, the activists would want even that part of saying, yes, objectively, now we know there was no consent from the victim, but at the time, I reasonably believed that there was consent. So it will be interesting to see how it all plays itself out when the case is finally argued on the 25th of September.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai. Nasruddin Nabi is back. Will he be cooking or will he be cooking the opposition?
Oh, well, I mean, yes. If he cooks, you know, the Amakosi fans might just declare it a public holiday. We'll call it Amakosi Day. But we'll have to wait and see. Tonight, 7:30 p.m., it's all going down. It's the Betway Premiership action. Kaizer Chiefs hosting Mamelodi Sundowns. Nasruddin Nabi making his long-awaited return for Amakosi after missing the first three matches, where Chiefs started perfectly with 3 wins and no goals conceded. For Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso, he's already under scrutiny after their MTN 8 semi-final exit to Orlando Pirates. The Brazilians their style will now collide with Kaizer Chiefs, and we'll find out whether Nabi will be stamping his authority now that he will be back. Meantime, the Orlando Pirates head coach Abdusalam Wadu says the club is awaiting a full medical assessment on star player Relebohile Mofokeng's injury and will provide an update soon. After defeating Orbit College 1-0 in the Betway Premiership at Orlando Stadium last night, Wadu explained that it's important to leave Mofokeng out of the match.
About really, unfortunately, I have to discuss with my medical department. I heard, of course, they communicated with me about the fact that he cannot be a part of the game, but we didn't. We still didn't have any feedback on the exam that he should do. I hope nothing serious because we need him.
Now, the Stellenbosch FC coach Steve Barker grateful after his team finally recorded a Betway Premiership win this season. At the fourth attempt last night, Stellies etching Maruma Galans 1-0. But they've also got that match against Mamelodi Sundowns this weekend, MTN8 action. And he says he's looking forward to a bit of a breather, but also he knows that Sundowns, they have high standards and that he won't be fooled by the so-called Sundowns bad patch.
I think whenever you play a quality team like Sundowns, it's always going to be difficult, whether they, at their best or even now maybe, they're having to just sort out one or two things. So it is an opportunity. It is at home. It's important for us to be winning our home matches and getting maximum points. So, we've got to go there with confidence and we've got to go there with belief and, just play to our strengths and our abilities and obviously be careful of what they do offer.
And finally, tennis action. South Africa's top-ranked men's tennis player Lloyd Harris has booked a place in the second round of the US Open against the number 4 seed Taylor Fritz after the qualifier stunned Sebastian Baez with straight sets victory 6-3, 7-5, 6-4. And that's the sport for now. We'll wrap it up with John Herika. He'll bring you more around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Defend Our Democracy movement says, given the seriousness of the allegations the Matlanga Judicial Commission is set to investigate, there should be a greater sense of urgency and preparedness. The remarks follow yesterday's announcement that the commission, which was set to start on the 1st of next month, has been postponed due to delays in the procurement of vital infrastructure. The Hawks in the Free State say 5 people have been served with summonses to appear in court in connection with the 2022 Jagersfontein dam wall collapse, which claimed the lives of 3 people and left several properties damaged. And US President Donald Trump's threats to double the tax on most imports from India have kicked in. Trump imposed 50% tariffs to punish one of the world's largest economies over its purchases of discounted Russian oil. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's been another crash on the M1 South this morning. Earlier one at Samrand was cleared away, but this one's happened by the old Joburg Road exit, so routing through Brockfontein interchange, bottom of the Ben Skim and N14, and the N1 after John Foster through the interchange and down to old Joburg Road remains slow. Still dealing with a crash on the N3 South at Galuli's, heavy passing Edenvale. Crash scenes coming in from the south on the N1 North at Dibcliff, so that's heavy. Clip River Drive at Southdale, so northbound there, coming off the N12 quite slow. And the N17 still absolutely jam-packed between Brakpan and the Boksburg exit due to the roadworks on that side. Durban, the N2 North into Spaghetti Junction, starting to ease up. The M7 crash at St John's Avenue Bridge looks like that's out of the way. And the M7 from Queensborough down towards the N2, an oil spill and a multi-vehicle pileup. That all seems to be sorted out. Just watch maybe for that oil spill, but the crash is out of the way. Cape Town, little crash earlier on Marine Drive, just slowing traffic leaving Tableview towards Racecourse Road, and quite a collision involving a pedestrian on Strandfontein and Spine Road. So there's a lot of traffic pressure in that Strandfontein area, and you will be asked to queue separately, but in that area on Baden-Powell this morning. If you go to Muizenberg, expect some delays moving into that Strandfontein junction. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you one more time, Dowling. Let's start in aviation for this hour. Why is Airlink threatening to halt Mozambican ticket sales?
So the local airline says that it's struggling with foreign, or rather that Mozambique is struggling with foreign currency shortages, which have resulted in about $200 million, which is about 3.5 billion rands in blocked funds for several airlines. And, Airlink also caught up in that. Mozambique has become a challenge for airlines operating in the region, with Airlink being the primary airline connecting South Africa to Mozambique after Thulasizwe and SAA pulled out. Now, in a Business Day article, the International Air Transport Association said Mozambique tops the list of countries with blocked airline funds, withholding about $205 million as of April this year, nearly double the amount from October last year. While Airlink expressed frustration over the persistent difficulties in repatriating funds generated from ticket sales in Mozambique, it is optimistic that the issue will be resolved, saying there's been ongoing discussions with the Mozambican government as well. Despite this, the airline's consideration to stop ticket sales in the country has raised concerns about the potential impact that could have on travel agents, passengers, and the broader travel industry.
And when we talk about your next story in Dowling, increased defense spending, we're talking here at home, right?
Yes.
Domestically. Tell me about that and how we anticipate that it will boost the local PGM miners.
So not necessarily increased defense spending here at home, but rather abroad. So what we've been seeing from Europe and America, that increased defense spending could boost local platinum miners. We've been seeing a number of those NATO nations committing to increase spending. At the last summit, countries agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP by 2035. And according to the World Platinum Investment Council, this increased spending on military technology could benefit platinum miners as PGMs are used in defense applications. Now, hydrogen fuel cells, which use platinum to convert hydrogen and oxygen into electricity, are a promising area for growth, and these cells offer a cleaner and more efficient energy source, attracting global investor interest. And hydrogen-linked demand for platinum is expected to surge tenfold by 2030, contributing 10% to overall platinum demand. Now, a Business Day article notes that there's been interest in the space, with companies like Hyundai and Skyton already exploring hydrogen fuel cells for military use, such as powering tanks and drones. And the demand for hydrogen fuel cells is expected to bode well for local PGM players, with analysts expecting these counters to continue to trend higher. Just this year, platinum prices have recovered, rising 50%, and that has trickled down to players like Sibanye Stillwater, the likes of Valterra Platinum and Implats. The Valterra and Implats share price have also surged over 50% so far this year.
So what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Wednesday in Dowling?
So local markets likely to rebound today following global peers. It's a busy day on the company news front, with results out from Bidcorp, Curro and Blue Label Telecom. So investors will be waking up to those numbers. And then changing focus to the currency scene, the rand still on the back foot at 17.66 to the greenback this hour. Meanwhile, in the oil market, crude is trending lower at $66 per barrel. Back to equities in the US, traders are awaiting Nvidia's earnings. Ahead of that, futures are flat. And then lastly, in Asia, trade remains choppy, with investors there holding off from making big bets when it comes to the equity scene.
Phew. And Dowling, let me release you. I think your dog wants to go for its mid-morning walk.
It's the neighbor's dog. It's the neighbor's dog.
I know.
I have no control.
It sounded a bit distant for it to have been your dog. Dowling, thank you for that. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Dowling Lechela has kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets throughout the morning.
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywood Bets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywood Bets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Have you discovered the TV license WhatsApp yet? We see you. Binging reruns, living for the drama, loving the SABC Plus sports replays. Now, paying your TV license fits the vibe. Simply say hi on WhatsApp to 077 6069 060. Get your balance, make a payment, or set up a debit order all in one chat. No queues, no please hold, just convenience that feels like it should have been here all along. Because every screen in South Africa is a stage and yours is lit. So why wait? Send hi on WhatsApp to 077 6069 060 and get your TV license sorted today. Hashtag your screen, your story.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, let's turn to the story now. The Southern African Tourism Services Association says the Tourism Minister, Patricia de Lille's decision to dissolve the South African Tourism Board has sent shockwaves through the industry. The association warns the move undermines governance, stability, and the country's international reputation at a critical time for recovery and growth. It accuses the minister of a troubling pattern of overreach and interference, saying she deliberately weakened the board that she has now dissolved by refusing to appoint a deputy chair as required under the Tourism Act. Let's speak to the CEO of the Southern African Tourism Services Association, David Frost. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. The Minister, Patricia de Lille, frames this as a move to protect governance with a board that had undertaken a meeting that was not procedural and didn't have a chair. That meeting said to have happened on the 1st of August this year. What about the reasoning and justification for the dissolution of the board don't you buy as an association?
Good. Well, good morning, and good morning to your listeners. To understand the issues here, and this all revolves around a board's fiduciary duty and good corporate governance. As the board was constituted on the 27th of September 2024, and it's a board the minister chose herself. This wasn't foisted on her. She didn't inherit the board from a previous minister. She chose this board, and it's a board of leading industry experts and leaders, people with an impeccable track record. And you can have a look at the profiles of those 9 people. What happened is that under a previous board chaired by Tim Harris, there was an irregular finding by the Auditor General, and a forensic report was commissioned. The results of that report were given to the now dissolved board in April of this year. And the board has to act, whether it's SAT or an independent company, you have to act on information. And the forensic report, I might add, was quite damning in its findings against the CEO and recommended certain steps. Now, how do you then play that as a minister? And I would argue that the way Minister de Lille has behaved is unministerial. What you should do is sit down with your board, immediately meet, get onto the same page. The board has to manage this process. And what the minister should be doing is offering support to that, not second-guessing, running interference, asking for a myriad of documents, and basically kicking the whole thing down, kicking the can down the road. So this whole process for 3 months, gets kicked down the road. She also, when the board was appointed, instead of appointing industry leaders with proven board and chairing experience, or industry experience, she appointed Professor Gregory Davids, a social scientist, no substantive board experience, no tourism experience. He was, quite frankly, useless in his position as chair. And this was brought to the minister's attention. She did nothing about it. The board then has a vote of no confidence in the Professor Davids, and he resigns. And she knows all of this. And we've got the forensic issue pending that the board has to act on. So the board is doing its fiduciary duty. This is what boards do. This is a board that she appointed. But the point is, there is no support given to that board.
But would support? Sorry, Mr. Frost. Would support only have been appropriately shown by her, even where she observes that the board is acting in an unprocedural manner? Because that's her observation. Does it involve giving them a blank check to act unprocedurally from her vantage point?
No, at this stage, the board has made her aware of the forensic report and the charges, and have written to get her concurrence. So they are keeping her abreast of the whole situation, and they are doing so in an absolute transparent way. Now, let me just say that there's a parallel here. So I served on the SA Tourism Board under Minister Hanekom, and a previous CEO, Siso Mshona, was implicated in alleged wrongdoing.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar situation. How did Minister Hanekom handle that? He met with us as a board, ably chaired, I might add, by Pam Yako, and we had a deputy chair, illustratively enough. The minister has refused to appoint a deputy chair, in Tanya Abramsa. He met with the board and he discussed this, and he basically said, you guys have got this, you need to deal with this. I have every confidence in you, and what support do you need from me? That is how you behave as a minister. You do not second-guess your own board when they are doing important fiduciary work. So the board, after the resignation of the professor, took a round-robin resolution because they were still quorate and they still have to perform their duties. It is her spurious allegation that they had a meeting. They did not meet. And
that's an important point, is it not?
That she dissolved the board. Now, my assertion is dissolve a board if there is malfeasance and clear wrongdoing. This is a board that's trying to progress good governance.
Yeah. So that point about whether or not there was a meeting is an important point in this whole conversation, is it not? Because she asserts that there was a meeting. The now dissolved board says there was absolutely no meeting. So are you satisfied that, as far as you can tell, and all the information you have at hand supports the dissolved board's version that this was taken on a round-robin resolution as opposed to a fully fledged meeting?
Yes, we are absolutely convinced of the board's view, and as indeed the minister is. So her original reason was they had a meeting. Go and listen to a couple of interviews now. She now says, "Oh no, I now have information that there wasn't a meeting." So she's flip-flopping already, and you will see more of that. The dissolved board is taking legal action. This is going to court, as it should do. The dissolved board is also appearing before the portfolio committee on Tuesday, as is the minister. But let me just add something that South Africans might find slightly amusing. Very rare on a matter of politics that you will find the EFF and the DA totally aligned. And let me tell you, they are totally aligned and have called the minister out on this.
So what do you think is really going on here? She insists that it's not about protecting the suspended CEO, Nombulelo Kuliwe, a suspended CEO of SA Tourism, against scrutiny over the forensic report and what it found. So what's really going on?
Well, that is the only sort of logical conclusion that one can come to. Because but let's take a step back. If you have to believe the minister's narrative, you have to believe this. So these 9 competent people, and go and have a look at them. We put it out in the media. You can look at these people and their track records. They've never met physically, but they somehow, between October last year and April, they virtually have to meet and conspire that they're going to behave in a nefarious and an unlawful way to undermine SA tourism. That's her narrative. It's entirely implausible. These are competent people who are trying to do their public duty. Nobody gets paid and gets rich serving on the SA Tourism Board. They all run businesses. They give up their time. This is a travesty because these are good people, the best we could give you, Minister, as an industry, and you chose them. And you have not sought to work with them. That's what being a minister is. You have to be the manager of the soccer team. Get your team, get aligned, and work with them. And there are no better people that we could have gone through. In her own words, look at the interview she's done. I'm a smiling dictator. Now, what, are we meant to just chuckle at that? No, we do not need dictators. Her behavior it's out of the Trumpian book, or it's out of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. This is how they behave. We don't behave like that. We're a democracy. We have governance.
Yep.
And there is a lot that's been written. Go and look at the Zondo Commission. He's got a whole chapter on this ministerial interference.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. David Frost is the CEO of the Southern African Tourism Services Association.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a little crash on the M1 South before Old Joburg Road, so out of Pretoria and Centurion, the route into Brockfontein, turning onto the M1 South into that stage slow. Roadworks on Modderfontein Road around Van Riebeek Road, that gets really heavy. It's pretty slow at the moment, but it gets heavier into the afternoon. The Mike 1 and M2 routes coming to the Crown, stay busy. M2 from Benrose, M1 from Boysons. Looks like an issue around Smith Street that is backing that traffic through the Crown interchange territory. And if you're on your way to Sandton, pretty busy Wednesday, not helping matters. Traffic lights out William Mandela and Matty Hurlingham sides are very slow, and a crash on Cedar Road at Uranium, slowing traffic coming in from Dane Fern. Durban eased up nicely after a pretty busy morning. Crashes on the M7 at the N2 and the M7 at St John's Avenue. They've all been cleared up, so that's all moving quite nicely. No major problems. Pietermaritzburg to Durban, checks fine in both directions as well. And Cape Town, quite a big crash at Strandfontein, Spine Road at Strandfontein Road Junction. Both of those routes are heavy, and just a little bit further south, there's a big queue on Baden-Powell this morning if you're trying to make your way through to Muizenberg, queuing traffic up into Strandfontein Road. Highways are busy, midweek delays there. The N1 from Plattercliff, N2 from Langa, M5 is at Kenilworth up to the N2, and the M3 still busy from the bottom of Wynberg Hill all the way through to Hospital Bend. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, I do need to repeat the call I made earlier on to Dumisani, who talked to us on Monday from Durban, who was talking about his nephew having been recruited for a learnership program, some kind of a program linked to Umgeni Water, but where there were now problems in terms of getting those people on that learnership to be paid. Dumisani, Umgeni Water reached out to us. They really want to try and assist in that situation. So we are asking you one more time, do give us a call so that we can link you up so that you can get the assistance you deserve. At least your nephew can get the assistance that's needed in that situation. So it's really important that you get in touch with us. Before I go to the calls, I just want to address this. And ordinarily I would ignore it and move on with my life, but I think it deserves to be addressed quite calmly. I'm not going to be, breathing fire or anything like that. No. Tamiso Kela says, Thulas, please don't be a spokesperson for the government. Your comment, you comment and said, it's not the president. You are out of line there. This is in reference to what I was saying, that to be fair to the president, when someone else was saying Ramaphosa, he has been called Ramaphosa. It's out there, it's in the public, and I think even he knows that some people call him that. All I was doing, and this is what we do on this show, and it really is, we don't know any better. We give you all perspectives, and we try and understand all sorts of perspectives. So, for instance, on the issue of the date range for the announcement of an election date, that's how it's always happened. If someone knows contrary, that there is no range that says this is where the term of office ends, you now have the clock is running from this date to that date to have an election. If anyone knows that I'm wrong on this point, that it's been done differently in as far as other elections are concerned, I will gladly accept that I was wrong, and I will apologize and say the president did not deserve that benefit of the doubt. As far as the issues around the postponement of the starting date of the Madlanga Commission. All I did was point out, which is factual, it's a fact, that from what the minister has said, the president himself is unhappy about this. That's all I did. I did not defend whether or not is he slightly responsible for the delay, etc., etc. Are there more reasons than the ones we are being told? All I said was, Minister Mamuluko Gupai says the president is so unhappy that he delegated his powers to discipline these people who led to this postponement to me. And that's why you are seeing this. When I reported to the president, he said, take disciplinary actions. I give you the powers. That's all I did. We try and bring as many perspectives as possible. And if that makes me come across as a spokesperson for the president, for the ANC today, for the EFF tomorrow, for the DA the other day, for MK Party, for Kaizer Chiefs, for Orlando Pirates, it's fine. It's okay. That's the only way we know how to do on this show. Let me go to Biggie. Speaking of Kaizer Chiefs, Biggie in Bombela, good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Thulas.
Yes. What have Amakosi done?
With regards to, maybe to start with, just to put a crunch,
yeah.
With regards to what we have just said right now, I can say that you are a super shiner of SABC in terms of making sure that you preserve the image of the SABC and make people understand and put them in perspective.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit worried, coming back of the coach of Kaizer Chiefs with the success that they've achieved in his absentia, and he's facing Mamelodi Sundowns, wounded Mamelodi Sundowns. I'm worried. If I were him, I would have just postponed my return, maybe for the other match, because
why?
Facing Sundowns in such a crucial situation, they are like a wounded lion, like a wounded mamba. So you'd understand it better because you're from Mpumalanga.
Yeah.
That it won't be easy. I'm also worried about the way the Pirates coach changing his starting 11 and things like that. But I hope he will get the gear. But word of advice to coach of Kaizer Chiefs, if Vina and company are listening, I think they must give him a report back as to how they worked and how they played, and they must keep the momentum and the starting 11 to overcome Sundowns. I think that's my contribution to us.
Thank you, Biggie.
For now.
Appreciate
Thank
it as
you so
always.
much,
That's
friend.
Biggie out in Bombela. JCK in Musina. Good morning. The ANC on your mind this morning. What about the ANC?
Are you well?
I'm very well. Please go ahead, JCK.
Cool. Thomas, man, I would like to talk about the ANC. I'm not convinced by the statement made by the SG yesterday, Mbalula.
Yeah.
Mbalula is failing us. He said about Menaleli Pound, comrade, vis-a-vis Igaba and Ntunu. Those people, those statements are the same statements that they are saying, but he is exactly Menaleli Pound. What Giga said, Ntunu said, it's the sickness of the AC, of which is the remedy. Let's see, because AC is sick.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong about that. But to preach only magic, Mapanda, Gigara, they said the same thing all over. You know? It's for the ANC. We talk about renewal. That is what they are doing. It's renewal. Renewing the ANC. Finally,
your line is letting us down there, but I think we're hearing your point. I don't know why, and it seems to be a problem I've heard even on Kathy's show when at JCK, that your line from time to time. Maybe you should take issue with the networks as well, because they really are sabotaging us. But I think we got enough out of the point that JCK was making about consistency in calling out behavior by various leaders of the ANC. I think that's what he was talking about. Malusi Gigaba, Senzo Mchunu, and then in comparison with what the Secretary General has said about the comments made by Naledi Pando. Let me go to Janusz in Cape Town. Good morning. Also, the ANC on your mind this morning.
Yes, thank you, Thulas. I would like to appeal to ordinary members of ANC.
everything is in your hands. All these leaders who are representing you, they don't give a damn about anything, only about their pockets. So if you don't want to dissolve this ANC or see this ANC of the Mandela and Oliver Tambo and the other leaders who are really fighting for the freedom, for all of us, please stand up. I know it's not easy. For my anti-communist action, I was arrested in Poland. So, and I've got NGO here. I help many poor people in South Africa as well. It's not easy, but if you don't move now, if you don't stand up, and I know that there are many good ANC people who will not allowed to do it, but they are just not active. Please stand up. Don't allow them to destroy it. This top ANC, they don't give a damn about. They're only about pocket. Ramaphosa, he's only is more about surrounding himself with the other leaders of the international. He's a rich person. Please stand up, ANC ordinary members. Don't allow to destroy it.
Gotta go. Thank you for that. Janusz in Cape Town. That's really how we come to the end of the Wednesday edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your always robust and informative engagements that we have on a daily basis. The Talking Point with Kathy Muhlahlana is up next after the news with Ann Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Defend Our Democracy movement speaks on Madlanga Commission delay and shortage of teachers sparks uncertainty in the sector. Good morning. Defend Our Democracy movement says given the seriousness of the allegations the Madlanga Judicial Commission is set to investigate, there should be a greater sense of urgency and preparedness. The remarks follow yesterday's announcement that the commission, which was set to start on the 1st of next month, has been postponed due to delays in the procurement of vital infrastructure. The Commission of Inquiry will probe criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. The movement's executive director, Naledi Kwali.
What is frustrating is that this was an opportunity for the institution to instill confidence, and they've been unable to do that. What they've done is essentially created a longer time for delivery, and that is extremely frustrating considering the institutions implicated, considering how urgently and how openly people need to be able to access these institutions without even preliminary discussions around what's been found and established so far. It creates room for mistrust, and it also leads to speculation as to why are there these delays.
Meanwhile, the EFF says it's not surprised by the announcement of the indefinite delay in the commencement of the commission. EFF National Spokesperson Sinau Tambo.
We aren't surprised. We had said at the time when Cyril Ramaphosa placed Senzo Mchunu on a special leave, which is not provisioned for in the Constitution of South Africa, that this is nothing but a political ploy to play on the anxieties of the people of South Africa, because we all know that commissions in this country are ordinarily established to ensure that we forget the transgression in the immediate and over time we focus on another topical issue. Now, this is part and parcel of something that vindicates us, because if there was no forethought as to how this is going to be funded, how the infrastructure for it is going to be sourced, but also damningly, the fact that there's no existing infrastructural capacity to host a mere commission means that it was established just to play to the political gallery.
The Hawks in the Free State say 5 people have been served with summonses to appear in court in connection with the 2022 Jagersfontein dam wall collapse, which claimed the lives of 3 people and left several properties damaged. Hawk spokesperson Zweli Mahobeleli says 5 people aged between 34 and 80 and 3 companies will appear in the Jagersfontein Magistrates Court on the 10th of next month.